All right. Just do a couple of quick edits and then we'll get going here. Hold on one sec. Right, almost there. All right, I think we're good. Save that. And let's come here. All right, let me hook up the microphone real quick. Forgot about that. Well, let's plug this bad boy in. All right, I think we are good to go. All right, so Infernal Blessings. Welcome everybody to the live stream. All right, let's run through a couple announcements. Just before we begin, give people a little more time to get here. I'm gonna try to like I did this one a day or two in advance. Sometimes I can't because I don't even know if I'm gonna do it. I don't know. But anyway, we'll try to get that word out there in advance if we can. All right, so let's just run through some announcements. One, first and foremost, the yearly forecast readings is what I get emails about at the moment constantly. Yes, those are still going on. They'll be running until roughly around last week in February, early portion of, let's say, first week in March, roughly. It's kind of what I've been done it the last few years. So you can book one. Just be patient because there is at least a couple of days waiting list or more. Remember, it's just one person. It's hard to get to everybody, so I try my best. But if you want to book. The longer you wait, obviously, I'm just going right in order. I just go in order by who pays. It's only right. Now, you probably can get in quick if you have flexibility. If your availability is very limited, that makes it tougher. I got some people that are only available like this day or 2 days a week. that might make it a little tougher. If you do have a very flexible availability throughout the week, it's possible you can get in quicker, because sometimes I can squeeze you in between, appointment A and appointment B. Sometimes, I can't guarantee it. But anyway, if you're interested in that or any other reading that I offer, you guys know what kind of readings I offer. Clepothic demonic readings, Santa Muerte readings, shadow work readings, Egyptian oracle readings, deity readings to see what gods, goddesses, and spirits walk with you. Or maybe you just want a consultation. And again, I always like to just stress a consultation is not a reading. No matter how many times I say that, people still get that confused. The consultation is just what the word consultation means. Look up the definition. It's a consult. You can talk about whatever you want. As I said, most people use it. They just come with a bunch of questions, or there's a lot of things they want to know, a lot of things they want to unpack. Sometimes they want to focus on a specific thing they got going on, or maybe they are practitioners on the path and they want to know about certain systems or, certain specific things. That's what you use a consultation for. Because sometimes I get in it and they're like, when does the reading start? It's not a reading. All right. So just be clear on that. You can shoot me an email at khnum19@gmail.com. Everything's in the description box of the video that I'm saying. When you see all my videos, I have all this information in the description box. You can shoot me an email, and please include in your email, very important, your full availability on a weekly basis and the time zone you're in. Please do not email me. I'm available Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Unfortunately, 9 out of 10 times I'm not available on the Wednesday at 3 o'clock. All right. If you want to sign up for classes, again, information's in the description box of the YouTube videos. Go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, BANITI. Tier 3 is the tier that gives you access to the 3 classes I do every month on Patreon. In addition to the group ritual we do every month, we have the Black Mass of set that we'll be kicking off for the ritual this year. We always do a Black Mass, some form of a Black Mass, when we kick off the new year to get that energy and that current going. You have access to all the rituals, all the classes in the archives going 5 years back. There's enough material on it. You probably won't even be able to do it in this lifetime, and that's not even an exaggeration. We have a bunch of ongoing classes. If you go to the page, just go to the collection section. You can see every class labeled and archived in a numerical order. We just added 2 new ones for 2025. We just did our first Necronomicon class about a week ago, I think it was, roughly, or Wednesday. Yeah, about a week ago. And then we also added the Egyptian Hermetic Alchemy classes, and those classes are going to help you greatly overall on your path. It's going to complement your shadow work like most of these classes do, but it's most definitely going to, on a intellectual, and it's going to increase your wisdom and your understanding on your path overall. Trust me when I tell you. So they're really good classes. The 2 new ones, in addition to all the other ones that they have, Vampiric Magic, Egyptian Vampiric Magic class. We got Luciferian Sorcery. We got a Clepothic class that we're doing on there. Esoterical Occult Bible Study class. Shadow Work class, which we're 23 and counting. Kundalini Meditation and Awakening class. I mean, you name it, it's on there. Necromancy and Dark Witchcraft class. I mean, just go check it out for yourself. You'll see that. Patreon.com/Baniti, BANITI. Also, don't forget to check out all the social media pages. It's Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram. It's Primordial Chaos 2 words on Facebook, and Primordial Chaos 3 on TikTok. That's the best way to stay up to all the latest announcements, happenings, classes, events, anything that I do or anything we got going on here at Primordial Chaos. You'll find it there. Okay. That's where you want to go to stay abreast. And also don't forget to check out the Primordial Chaos podcast, available on Spotify or major podcast platforms. Again, everything I just said, you can look in any of my YouTube videos. It's all in the description box of the videos, just in case you forgot. All right, having said that and gotten that out of the way, let's get into it. You see the title. Some of this stuff has come up over the years from different perspectives. There's different grimoires. There's different books out here on this stuff. Some of it depends on the school of thought you're coming from. That has a lot to do with it, in my opinion, that I've seen over the years. How does this stuff relate to us as occult practitioners, being on the left-hand path, etc. Right? You can look at, like, for the Watchers, for an example, books on the Ethereal. There's a bunch of authors out there that have put them out over the years, Michael W. Ford and others. You had people like Dr. Delbert Blair talk about the Watchers, Phil Valentine. Just a host of other people. Zachariah Stitchin kind of connected it to the Anunnaki, and we're going to talk. There's a connection with that. We went over some of this stuff in relation to the gatekeepers with the Necronomicon, right? Because most people don't really know what the Necronomicon is, right? Well, they do on the surface. They know it's connected to Lovecraft. They know the basics, right? But I don't think people understand the full extent of what you're dealing with when you're opening gates, right? And let's start there, okay? Because you're working with who some people know in the Anunnaki Sumerian tradition. There was a book I wanted to put out. Hold on, let me see if I can grab that book if it's over here. Hold on. Happened to be the first one when I opened up. How about that? And I meant to put this, if you are in that Patreon class, I will mention it there again, but also I'm going to put it out here. So if you're in that Patreon class, you might want to take a note on this book. When did this book come out? It should still be available. I've had it for a while, though. I think it came out in, what year was this released? 92. Okay, so it's been out for a bit. I'm sure you can find it. I believe it should be. I haven't Googled it. Somebody I'm sure can Google it once I put it up. I'm going to get to that in a second. Okay. When you're working for, I'm using the Necronomicon as an example because that is a popular writing. That is a popular Grimoire working that is used on the left-hand path or the path of the occult. All right. What I meant to say earlier was I don't think people fully understand. I think they underestimate what it is they're working with and what they're doing it with. They're with. Now, if you know, I'm not going to get into the whole history, the origin of the book. We cover that in detail in the Necronomicon class. If you know the origin of the book, you know the history with Wasserman, etc. And I actually know James Wasserman. He was over the OTO lodge that I belonged to for many years. So I have a little bit more of an in-depth personal understanding of it. Doesn't make me better than anybody, but talking to James when he was alive, as you know, those who know he's transitioned on, I got some insight that he talked about. And as you know, if you read the Necronomicon, you know what happened to some that were exposed to it. My point saying all this, where am I going with all this? When you're opening gates, you have to understand, especially, and I'm using again the Necronomicon as an example, you're opening up portals of energy to your psyche and your subconscious mind. Now, some of you, right, might already know this. Some of you might be even yourself. Some of you probably have talked to people and told you. To some degree, people have gotten great results with it, worked with it, no issues. Some people just got completely fucking bugged out with it and they put it down and they didn't want to fuck with it no more because of some of the residual effects they were getting spiritually, psychologically more than anything. That's the key one. Now, when you're opening gates, okay, I just want to make this clear. When you're doing invocations, you're summoning spirits, gods, goddesses, or demons, whatever title you want to refer to them as. You are opening yourself up and making yourself receptive to this energy, okay? Now, the reality is some people don't understand the extent to that because the effects of it is something that is continual, and that could be good or bad depending on the individual state of mind they're in, how they receive those energies, etc., right? And as I've told you guys many times before over the years, when you're doing ritual work, even after you do a ritual, right, it doesn't just stop there. If that ritual is done correct, it stays, it reverberates with you over a long period of time. You sometimes can get effects and continue, and that could be good or bad, just depending on the experience and what happened. You tend to still tap into that energy and it affect you or get results or not get results, good or bad, over a long period of time, right? So for an example with the Necronomicon, if you're going to do gate work and you're working with a lot of these Sumerian gods and goddesses, the Anunnakis, etc., do your research on them. And as I was telling people in the class last week, even before, quote unquote, I was on what somebody would label the left-hand path of the occult, I was messing heavy with the Sumerian deities back in the early 90s, right? Anu, Marduk, Tiamat, Ishtar, Kernungi, working with all of them, Tammuz, Damuzi, all of them. Ishtar's ascent to the underworld. That's a whole. We might know these as Sumerian. I don't want to say mythology, but where does this transition? Because this is where the reptilian agenda and the alien agenda comes in. I want to be careful how I talk about this because some people are spooked out. Is there a connection also to this with what people call archons? Yes. Right now, depending on where you read and who's talking about it, I've heard some things that are on point over the years, and I've heard some things that are just completely religious and stupid. Right. First of all, anybody that claims to be on a path of self-mastery, but yet feels they're inferior to some type of demonic monsters that can devour and eat them, you're not on a path of self-mastery. In no way, shape, form are you exhibiting the characteristics of a god or a goddess, because you've just admitted to yourself you're not in control. You are inferior to external forces outside of you. Now, we always say nothing exists outside of us, right? All is mental. Mental is all. The universe is mental. That is true because everything starts within the subconscious mind, right? That's that first Hermetic principle of Tahuti, right? It never negates that fact because, again, as I've said a million times, people get confused. Well, if everything is mental, why am I having external experiences? You're not understanding the principle. It didn't say you're not going to have external experiences. It's saying it still has its point of origin within the mind, right? I keep telling people that everything you absorb, you don't realize when you're opening gates, some of these beings have the ability like you have, but we have lost it, some of us, where we have the ability to use our psychometry, clairvoyance, intuition, psychic abilities. So some of these spirits can read your subconscious mind and they can appear and manifest how you want to see them because they're reading your mind and they know how you want to see them, right? There's something called specters, right? If you understand working with spirits and manifested spirits, people like Raymond Buckland talked about it. You go back to some of his book on manifesting spirits, Alan Kardec with spiritism. If you don't have the book of spirits, you should definitely read that because they were definitely tapped into something on a mental and spiritual plane that goes beyond the norm. If you don't know how to tap into spirits and communicate with them and manifest them, then you can be, I want to be careful how I word this too, because some people always talk about trickster spirits. And I've said over the years, not because I'm perfect, because I make mistakes, I fucked up, I've done work that completely backfired on me, failed, or I didn't get any results, right? We all have. But I don't have no issues with trickster spirits. When I find people always talking to me or emailing me about trickster spirit, everything, then to me, that's a testament to kind of how weak you are. If it's happening all the time, if everything, oh, I didn't know this, I found out such and such, and the spirit tricked me and this and that. I'm not saying, because specters have the ability to read your subconscious mind. So they can deceive you if you're not a strong-minded will and strong, tough, mentally solid-minded individual. And I keep trying to tell people, stop approaching this shit like some of these spirits are your friends. They're not your friends. All you people out there with this fluffy shit, oh, Lilith came to me and told me I was her daughter. I don't know what Lilith that is. Because I already revealed to you. Lilith came to me and said, it ain't a choice. You're all her children. She picks and chooses on her terms, not your terms. You don't make that statement. Okay, that Lilith, this fluffy mother goddess, this new age Lilith shit they got going on now, and Kali and Hecate, and I don't fuck with none of that because to me it's not real because I don't understand that. I don't have no experiences with that. Well, you say, well, maybe them people did. Well, maybe they did, but I can't testify to that because I haven't, and I can't teach about that. Because the true origins of just those few for a mention or example, it starts with the Infernals. Now, we know later on down the road, a lot of this shit gets watered down when certain people get their hands on it, certain spiritual systems, then it just gets turned into this tutti fruity, fresh and fruity shit. And I don't know where that stuff comes from. So I don't teach it, right? I don't know. I don't look at Kali as she's the nurturing mother goddess. I look at Kali as a violent warrior goddess that don't take no shit. She's a devourer. She destroys so you can reconstruct and rebuild. That's the Kali I know. This old, and she came to me and she put her hand on her shoulder and she told me I was her son. I can't relate to that shit. And I'm not trying to, downgrade anybody, but to me, I don't know, it sounds a little kind of suspect to me. Okay. We have to understand we are shaping these entities, deities, demons, spirit. I'm just using the different terms that are out there. They're just terms. It does them no justice, but I have to use terms that some of you that are advanced, you know what I'm talking about, but maybe newcomers, because there's going to be newer people that come across these videos, right? You have to understand you're creating them and shaping them within your subconscious mind by everything you experience and expose yourself to. Now, when you get into the Necronomicon, for an example, and you understand the history and the origin, there's a mystery behind the book. When it was first put out, then it disappeared. Did it really exist? This, that, or the third. You can read that history on your own because that's a little time consuming. I've done that. We've done that in the classes. But I would also encourage people, and most of you are familiar with H.P. Lovecraft's work. Go look at his work. And for those that are not, Call to Cthulhu, basically, as I told you guys, was the motivation for the Aquaman movies, right? If you go look at it, they even mention Lovecraft. Well, they show his books in the first one. They show him on the ledge. I mean, it's highly influenced by Lovecraft's writings. But Lovecraft, and I want to use him as an example to show you what I'm talking about. Let's take H.P. Lovecraft for an example. For those that are familiar, if you're not in your time, do some research after this. He was labeled a fiction writer that wrote what some would label a lot of horror stories and bizarre shit. That's what people maybe who didn't really understand what he was doing, what was writing. But he was basically writing down his subjective experiences and how he tapped into his imagination and his subconscious mind and then his subjective conscious. And he created a bunch of different stories and writings. It's gotten transitioned and grafted over to the occult world because a lot of people on the occult and the left-hand path have embraced his writings. Get down. Get down. Get off of there. Get off of there. Get off of there. Get down. Get down. Get down. Down. A lot of his work has gotten, again, infused and connected to the occult and the left-hand path. So check out his writings. But the Necronomicon, the origin of it is traced back to him, another character called the Mad Arab, who he claims was the being that was channeling a lot of the work that you've read in there. I'm just giving you the short story because I don't want to turn this into a Necronomicon class because it's not. And then long story short, it goes into invoking these entities, using sigils, seals, passkeys, opening gates, right? Because they are gatekeepers. Right? When you work with certain systems and pantheons, there are gatekeepers that protect the gates. They open and close them. When you are opening a gate, if you don't understand the gate, you don't understand the keys that open the gate or the sigils or the symbols, right? That's where it can backfire on you. Okay. So if you go into the Necronomicon, you can take any of the gate work. So just for an example, let's just say, let's go to one of the gates real quick. Invocation of the Southern Gate, right? And if you have the original Necronomicon, you could take notes. It's on page 102. So just to give you an example, like what's here, some of the wording. I invoke the angel guardian against the Urulu, dread city of death, Gate of no return, do thou stand at my side. And then it goes on to invoke the names of the most mighty hosts. And just to give you an example, you got Marduk here, you got Enki, Pazuzu, right? And Pazuzu, as we know, is another. It's crazy because with Pazuzu, if you look at like the first two Exorcist movies, right? That's who they claim was possessing. I forgot her name in the movie, Linda Blair, but I forgot her character in the movie. In the second Exorcist, if you saw the second one that came out, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, it wasn't really publicized because it came out, I think, in late 79. Well, the movie starts off in the beginning, they're somewhere in the Middle East, and they're somewhere on a mountain. There's a whole cult to Pazuzu. They uncover his temple, they show the image and everything. So that they're trying to show you the origin of, and I'm going to tell you why I'm getting into this, because you're invoking Pazuzu, okay, when you're working with the Necronomicon. And he was known as a very intense manifestation of the adversary. So they try to show you in the second movie that was the demon that had possessed her, because they trace the origin back. Father Karras, as you know, he dies in the first one, but they kind of take you back to show you the origin. And then if you've seen how the second one comes, she has like psychic disturbances and all this other shit. But the point is, the cult of Pazuzu, right? You can find it in the Middle East, which is connected to those areas that we know of today as Iraq, or what was called back then ancient Sumer, etc. Right? And we also know in modern grimoires today, a lot of people have in a lot of their workings and book about Pazuzu or Pazuzu, however you want to pronounce it. Right? There's two ways. When you're opening the gate and you're invoking an entity like that, you better understand what that entity is and what it does, right? And I want to make this clear, regardless of what people think on the outside. Me, I couldn't give a fuck. It is very real to those that don't think it's real, and it's not real to those who don't have the experience, and rightfully so. If you have no experience in it, you haven't confirmed it for yourself through your experience, not just with this, then it's not real to you. But I can tell you, for those who may not have the experience and think it's fake, it's very real, okay? Everything that we do on this path, when you tap in the correct way, it goes, see, the people judge and base is something real or not based on their limited understanding. And usually it's from a religious perspective or some system of limited spirituality, where it's tough because what we do is we go outside of 3 dimension, person, place, and thing, right? We confirm a lot of the things that we deal with and experience through our ritual work, which, yes, is very subjective in nature. And I teach you guys, you can't force somebody to accept your subjective experiences. They're personal and they're subjective, right? As I said before, those who have had similar experiences, we can dialogue together because we've had similar experiences. So some haven't, some have had experiences beyond that, etc. But the reality is of what we do, and this is why people will say, oh, that's not real, or oh, that's pseudo, or that's fake, or you can't prove that. And I love when people say that, because prove it in accordance with what? Some book, the fact checkers that always need a source. And they don't realize a lot of the sources they were going to or still go to today are considered pseudo only until a large amount of people accepted those sources did they not be considered pseudo anymore. So everything when it comes to sources at one point was pseudo until it was started to become accepted by large masses of people. We're going out beyond that. And as I said before, everything you deal with spiritually is not going to be found written somewhere in a book. Okay? And this is why I keep telling people, the books can only take you so far. Look, as I said, I love books. Right in front of me, I have a huge case of library. I got thousands of books. But as I've said before, when you're in the ritual chamber, the books don't serve you no purpose no more. I don't go into the ritual chamber like a robot and just read out of a book, because your flow of energy is it's off. The rituals are not going to work like that. You don't have to do rituals word verbatim all the time the way they're written. You study, you absorb the ritual, you get a thorough understanding of it, and you carry it out in your own way. Now, there might be other people that go against that, but I never copy anything identical in a book. Okay? I never do that. Get the understanding of the ritual, and don't worry about when you're doing your ritual. Oh my God, did I do that right? Did I put that in the right place? Oh man, I forgot to do. Oh, I didn't light that candle. Oh, I missed that part. Once you do that, your ritual is null and void, because you've just immediately, when we say at the end of a ritual, so it is done. We don't say so mote it be and all that religious shit and Ashe and Alafia and Grand Rising and fucking Hotep family. I'm just joking. We say at the end of every ritual, so it is done. As simple as those 4 words are, the power that they contain when you say it with conviction, you're saying you've put it out there, it is done, it is successful. So mote it be, well, it means, I don't know, maybe it'll work. I'm just putting it in the hands of unseen forces. That's that light side of shit, right? So mote it be. We don't say any of that shit. When you say so it is done at the end of your ritual, you are now 100% certain what you did was just effective. So when you go backtrack and second guess, oh, I did. Oh man, maybe I didn't do that. Now you're taking away. When you put it out there in the ethers, you are now destroying that energy that you have sent out there in order for that to manifest. You have now destroyed it by second guessing it, doubting it, worrying about if you were perfect to the T. I'm going to tell you the best rituals are the rituals that I find you just do out of the blue that have no type of order to it, okay? Because it comes naturally from within. I don't do back in the day, I would write shit down, prepare it. I stopped that a long time ago. Those that are on the Patreon know. Outside of maybe using a specific invocation in a group ritual, because group rituals are different than individual, I just flow with it. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to do up until the moment the ritual begins. Because when you're tapped in, the spirit will guide you in which direction you should go, how you should do it, and what you should focus on. You get a general idea because you always got to have a clear intent. When you're carrying out a ritual, what's the purpose of the ritual? What is your intent and what is your desired outcome, right? If you don't have that clear laid out and is it practical and can you obtain it, then right out the gate, you started out on the wrong foot, okay? That is critical. I can't stress enough how critical that is, because as we're moving into 2025 now, right? Now we're first month almost in, right? It's crazy how the fucking time just goes whipping by. I've told you guys this in some recent classes. You might feel like now, all of a sudden that time has sped up, and time has sped up, okay? So if you're starting to sense, there's a couple of things how you know these watchers and these gatekeepers are here. Like one thing it says in the Necronomicon, they manifest through the veil of chaos, destruction, and confusion. Well, that just described everything that's going on this planet right now. The more chaos and confusion and destruction, it creates a veil for them to work and hide behind. Okay, and if you read the Necronomicon, it talks about that. They're drawn to that, right? The ones that have their own agenda, right? Because in essence, as I said, stop thinking that these spirits are your friends, because they're not. Okay, but when you show a certain level of intelligence, they walk side by side with you, and it's a respect thing. You respect them and they respect you, because you are them, they are you, and you walk side by side with the spirits. We don't worship them. We don't take a mental approach that we're inferior to them, right? Because here's the reality: when you really understand how this works, just as much as you are invoking and connecting with them because you have a desired outcome, they need you just as much as you work with them. And you start to learn that, right? And once you learn that, you don't take that inferior approach like there's something outside of you that's, you know, that controls, and all that spooky shit goes out the window. So that's why I was saying earlier, I don't worry about tricks to spirits. I don't have problems with that. The only problems I have is myself when I fuck up and I don't do something right. The only thing that deceived me was me. I don't worry about some outside forces. So Archons aren't these monsters, you know, that dwell in the demiurge and Your demiurge is the deep recesses of your subconscious mind. And you have all type of beings that reside there within your subconscious mind, especially when you go beyond in the depths of it through your subjective consciousness. You have low vibrational frequency beings and you have higher frequency beings. That's all it is. They're vibrational degrees of the same thing. That's what the 7 Hermetic Principles was trying to show you. Everything vibrates and never rests. It's just they vibrate at different frequencies. Lower vibrational frequency beings, which are the ones that are controlling everything that's going on right now through the music, through the entertainment, through drugs and narcotics, through fashion, through the movies, because they can program you now subliminally through movies. And I told you, they've been sending out these ELF, extreme low frequencies, for years. I've been telling you guys this shit for years. As you're sitting here right now, if you have a cell phone close to you, it is damaging you. And we're all subjected to it, but there's good news to follow it. It damages the occult nerves and the 12 magnetic particles connected to your brain that keep you absorbed and connected to everything in the multiverses. They know this. So if they could damage that, disconnect those occult nerves and they don't function right, and then where the hippocampus area of the brain is where this neuromelanin travels, not neuromelanin. Neuromelanin is the external melanin, the physical pigmentation. The neuromelanin is the melanin that coats every aspect, every organ. It's in your blood, it's in your kidneys, your liver. It is the most powerful substance in the multiverses that keeps you connected and functioning. Okay? This is what Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum was trying to show us in Dark Light Consciousness. If you go read that book, it's the superhighway, it's the conductor that keeps us linked in. When that neuromelanin is damaged, and we do it through a multitude of things, artificial prescriptions and drugs, and I'm not saying, I just want to make this clear. I'm not telling anybody I want to make this clear. Some people go to the extreme. If you need a physician's attention, I always encourage you do what you can do to get back right, and then you can maintain it naturally, because that's all medicine is good for. When you get to a point where you need like a quick jolt to get you back to a condition or a state where you can maintain on your own, that's how you do that. Okay, so I'm not telling anybody do not take doctor's advice, because you do have to take a doctor's advice, especially if you got issues. Because I've watched people over the years get spooky with this. I'm all natural and holistic. And then, 3 weeks later, they're in the hospital on their deathbed because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. So what I'm saying is be smart. But synthetics damage your neuromelanin. Artificial preservatives, it's chemicals, it's preservatives in the foods, all these prescription synthetic drugs that they give us. It's our exposure to these extreme low frequencies. All this technology that we're exposed to, you're going to see it kick up a notch because they've now learned, like satellites, they can tap into the subconscious mind. And you're going to find out, and you're going to see it started last year, as I told you guys, people are going to start getting more headaches. You're going to start tasting this blood metallic taste in your mouth and on your tongue. Like, what's that taste? Why? You're going to find days where you have no fucking appetite. Like, you're hungry and just the thought of food gets you sick to your stomach. Like, you're starving and then you think about, oh, I want some treat. All of a sudden you just feel like fucking disgusted, right? People that have had sinuses and allergies, or if you haven't, that's going to kick up a notch and get even worse, right? People described last year during allergy season seeing like mucus and just levels. And I'm bringing this all up because these are the residual effects of how they fucking with the natural energy grid. And it's all geared at us, because if they can get us vibrating on a low frequency, then it's easier to control. Now, you got a lot of implants around like this new wave, and I'm not saying this being again as a grumpy old head. You know how I feel about music. That's why this new music, this new form of rap called trap music and mumble rap, is fucking lethargic. It's low vibrational frequency music, and it promotes ignorance. I mean, just look. I know some of the young folks might be going, "Well, I love that music." I get it; it's your generation, but I'm sorry, I got to call it for what it is. Some of these motherfuckers, they are here. I mean, look, there's a dude from here. You guys might know. I'm not too hip with all the new artists because you know I'm an old school head. But there's an artist from down here that's popular in that whole trap mumble crap music. He looks like a fucking zombie. sounds like a zombie. This dude, Kodak Black, he's from this area right here. I mean, he's locally from this area here. You look at him and it's like, what the fuck is he saying? There's a clip I want you guys to look up when you get a chance. There's a comedian from LA named Joey Coy, or Joe Coy, K-O-Y. He just recently did a special at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And just Google Joey Coy and mumble rap. And he summed it up beautifully in there, because what he's talking about in there, it's slowing down these kids' intelligence. It's making them lethargic. Okay? You can't even look. I'm telling you this because in my field of work, the company, I hire a lot, some of these younger kids this generation, and from all walks of life. It's not just Black, it's Latino, it's white. And they don't even know how to articulate themselves when they talk. They can't even speak complete sentences when they talk. They mumble when they talk. It's dumbing down their intelligence. And I mean, I got one dude that where they just they do this, twisting his hair. This is what he does. Every time you look at him, he looks like he needs to be committed to a psych ward like this all day. You look at him, every time you look over, he's doing this, twisting his fucking hair. And then when you talk to him, it's like I need the bouncing ball with the words underneath, because I can't understand a fucking word he's saying. I'm saying this mumble rap, they've invaded the music, and they started it years ago. That's a fact. Because when you look at music, especially hip hop, was given to us to speed up our intellect. When it first came on the scene in the 70s, mid to late 70s, and then really burst on the scene in the early 80s, and then we've seen how it evolved from the mid to late 80s. There was another shift. Lyricism shifted. The production shifted. It went from like those, kind of cheesy sounding, low quality beats. You saw how the technology changed, but then something shifted in the mid to late 90s, more so the late 90s going into 2000. Now it's everything is fuck this, fucking bitches, fuck hoes, pour that Cristal at. I'm robbing motherfuckers. I'm killing. I'm the baddest motherfucker on the. And every video is the same. Some fool with gold teeth in his mouth, making it rain. And then there's always the I call them the idiot crew. Why they gotta have all these dudes behind them just walking around grabbing their nuts? That's all they're doing. They serve no purpose. They just walking around behind the dude grabbing their nuts. It's like when you go to a concert. I see clips of it. I don't go to this shit. When we went to a show back in the day, it was entertainment. You had dances. You had a DJ. You had MCs, and every artist had their own style, their own flavor, their own show. Now every show is the same thing. Some dude, half of the time he ain't even singing. He's singing over his record, and the crowd's singing it, and then you got a bunch of idiots walking around behind him grabbing their nuts. This is all they're doing. This is it. Throwing gang signs, walking around. That's the show. And it's a testament to the level of ignorance that people are catering to. Now get this. My whole stance is that I don't even hate on the artists for that. Get your money, do your thing, get your hustle. I think the people that spend the money and support it are more ignorant than the artists. Because I can't knock a man for his hustle. You understand what I'm saying? And look, I get it. Times change, the generation changes. But one thing, regardless of that, yes, every older person, of course, is not, as they get older, they're going to kind of shift away from what the current is. But let's be real. You cannot deny the level of the ignorance in the lyrics is obvious, regardless if we're talking old school, new school. It's clear as day. I'm saying that that's part of the agenda. Because when hip hop first came out and it was controlled by the individuals that created it, and now there's all this debate all over the internet with Lord Jamal and did what Latinos responsible for creating hit. Fat Joe's making a complete fool of himself. Let's put it this way. Latinos were there, but let's always not remember who started it. Black people started hip hop. Let's anybody that wants to debate that is a complete fucking idiot. And especially if you grew up where I grew up, Bronx, Queens, right? There's always the debate. We always fuck around. I'm from Queens. Did Bronx start it or did the Queens start it? The Bronx River House Projects. They started hip hop. All right. Let's keep it for what it is. Look, you could go back to the New York City Breakers, Rocksteady Crew. Yes, Latinos and other ethnicities were always there to some degree, so they contributed to the art. And everybody's having this debate, but let's call it for what it is, right? We know who created the music. When it was controlled by those who created it, they were doing shows in the park. venues, roller skating rings, jams, block parties, right? It was, I mean, shit, it started with they were selling, mixtapes out the back of their trunk. It's just when these big record companies came in and these A&Rs, that's when the agenda started, because they said, look, this is a way we can pay these people, and they're not really paying them, because I don't even want to get into the history of the residuals. Go look this up to show you. De La Soul, for those who are familiar with De La Soul, they were very smart, because you got to remember, a lot of those artists back then, when they got their deals, digital didn't exist. So when digital came on the scene, and a lot of them don't own the rights to their own music, it didn't include the residuals and the profit they would make off of digital platforms, because it didn't exist. So a lot of artists from back then, and I mean, I'm into this stuff because I studied, because I did music back in the day, but a lot of these artists basically got fucked out of their owning their music, and got fucked out of the profit that's being made now on all these digital platforms. De La Soul refused to be brought out, and this is why, if you haven't paid attention, just until about a year ago, that's when their music first became, all their albums were available on digital. You couldn't find any of their music on digital platforms, not their entire albums. You might have found pieces of it here and there. You could find shit on YouTube, but on any full digital platform, you didn't find their work. Okay. That's because they refused to sell the rights to their music, and they had they found a gray line in the contract where if they would put their music on the platform, they would have to give them X amount of profit. So what happened is they tried to just give them a lump sum, and they turned it down. And once the amount of time went by, where after a certain X amount of time went by, they would get all of their They would get all of their music back, because the statute of limitations, that it's null and void. They waited it out and were patient until they had full ownership, and now they get every cent of all the money that's made on that digital platform. See, I'm saying that because they tricked a lot of those artists out of business, okay? Because a lot of them, I mean, some of you know, some of you don't. Those artists didn't get nowhere near the money that these artists are getting today. There was no YouTube and social media. Anybody could put an album out now, right? All you gotta do is come on some type of social media and put some type of digital platform out. You got an album out. It's not like back in the day you had to go to a record exec, get a record deal, and you had to have an A&R, and you had to have somebody market your album and put it out, and you just got sales off of the copies that were sold. Them days is gone, right? Now a lot of these artists, some of them become sensations overnight, because they just put their shit all over social media, and now all of a sudden they stars. It's the music originally was to speed up our intellect. It was given to us by the elders, right? Some of these watchers, these gatekeepers, because at that time, hip hop came at a time that was greatly needed, because inner urban kids, especially Black kids, were destroying themselves, right? It came at the right time. It was an outlet for a lot of kids in the urban cities to express their frustration, their creativity, okay? Whether it was breakdancing, DJing, b-boying, rapping, freestyling, all of that were art forms. And that's why I always direct people to Karis One's Temple of Hip Hop, and read the hip hop gospel. You should read that, because he's dropping jewels in there, right? He's telling you from a perspective in there, really kind of a lot of the stuff that I'm saying right now. And that's why, like, when early 2000s came, I'm going to say, it's when it started going to shit. Well, really, I mean, you can go back before then. There were signs it was getting ready to happen, but it was staying afloat. Now, forget it. I don't even know what the fuck it is now, right? It's got to be more, your underground artists are putting out, your artists that don't really get the mainstream play. Only thing they're promoting is trap music, drill music, mumble crap. Oh, and every female rapper talks about the same shit. No creativity. I'm the baddest bitch. I got the wettest pussy, and blah, blah, blah. And how many songs can you write about that? Like, no, you don't have the baddest pussy. You had probably the stinkiest pussy. That's a different story. But there's no creativity, and they all sound the same.
Either they mumbling or everybody wants to sound like Drake. Everybody's singing some sing-along shit, right? I can't tell them apart. Like when I hear snippets of it, or if I'm out and about, I hear somebody driving by in a car, or I come across something on YouTube or flipping through channels, I can't tell the difference between any of it. This shit all sound the same to me, okay? It no difference between any of it. But the music is used to put out extreme low vibrational frequencies. And look at the youth today, and look at the artists today. They're all high on codeine and Percocets, and they're mixing that shit with cough syrup. They're doing all these recreational drugs. And look at them. They walk around like they look like they're walking dead, like they're zombies. Look at Kodak Black. He's like a walking zombie. And he can't even do a whole show. It's just, hey, you got some hype man. I saw a clip, some hype man yelling, "What's that, Kodak?" And then he put the mic out to the crowd. And then again, you got the goons walking around behind him, holding their dick. And it's like, who the fuck would want to pay money to see that? I don't want to pay no money to see that trash. But they got the youth deceived. And if we have kids, it's up to us especially to educate these kids, okay? Like I said, when we went to a hip hop show, we could expect to see some dancing, some crowd participation. Here's the other thing, and I've said this before, and there was a great interview that Big Daddy Kane did on Drink Champs, and he said something, because you got some of these old school artists that are still torn, and they can tell you the difference of what they were going through back then and today. And he said the difference with back then, when we went to a show, we participated, we focused on the show. Right? Because we knew there was going to be some dancing. Nobody was sitting down. People were all vibing with each other. There was crowd participation. You had dancers up there hyping. You had a real DJ with 2 turntables, not some motherfucker with a laptop and 2 electronic turntables. You had a real motherfucker up there with 2 SP12s with needles, and he was spinning vinyl. That's a real DJ. Let's just get that straight. Anybody could be a DJ today. All you got to do is go buy a DJ set. You ain't got to do shit. Or press a couple of buttons and spit. Anybody can do it. A 5-year-old kid can be a DJ today. That's not DJing. Let's make that clear. Okay. But back then, Big Daddy Kane said something in that interview that struck me hard. He said, you come to a show today, all people worried about is pulling out their cell phone and filming. They're more engaged in the phone than they are the show. Now, back in the day, don't get me wrong, these didn't exist. That's part of the problem. He said back in the day, everybody was participating, dancing, moving around. Everybody was engaged with the show. That's the difference from then till now, because this too is used as a tool, right? And it's good or bad, right? And it's destroying a lot of our kids too. With social media, same thing. I've told you guys about this, right? We have to be on top of this type of stuff and regulate it. So what this does is, in turn, this is how they create that low vibrational frequency energy. And this is how, you understand, you get locked in to a certain mindset. You start feeling a certain way. When you start seeing people describe now in this day and time, all of a sudden their mood, they have these severe mood swings. Their vibe changes out of nowhere because they are fucking with the energy. Now, when I was talking about earlier with time, right, they definitely have sped up time. Some, we are seeing it, we're feeling it, and we're experiencing it. Look, I told you guys, in 2025, their goal now is to focus on individuals who they feel know something or are a possible threat. And I mentioned to some of you guys in the class, the end of the year class, I told you they've come for me twice. They've tried to literally attack me twice. And they'll try to come to you in your dreams. They'll try to send satellite and signals to your brain, right? They have the technology to do that. They'll try to make you, when they do certain things, they can send things to you to make you feel ill, sick, or a certain kind of way. There's many ways they will try. But now their goal is they're focusing their attention. They ain't worried about the ones they got. Like all the people I just mentioned, they're not worried about them because those people are distracted. They're caught up in the bullshit. They're into all that low vibrational frequency shit. They ain't worried about those people. They got those people already. They worried about people that, quote unquote, I hate to use this term, that are awake. Because now that's their last agenda. We've got to put the rest of these people to sleep. Okay? Now I'm talking about it now. This is the thing we have to be aware of and prepare ourselves for. So how do we prepare ourselves for? I keep telling you guys something over the years of being consistent in what you do. Okay. You must be consistent in what you do. If you're not consistent, plan on getting no results because nothing is going to change for you. If you think you're just going to sit around and read a bunch of books and then magically all the solutions and that's everything will just take care of itself, no, you've got to put in the work. You've got to start creating ritual work to identify problem areas in your life you need to fix. That's the way you create ritual work. I don't understand what's so complicated about that. If you're doing shadow work should clearly identify what you're dealing with. And I just don't understand what do I do next? And if you're on the Patreon page with me, and I haven't gotten one email, don't ever email me saying I don't know what to do. With all the classes that is on there, 23 shadow work classes to get you in the right direction. You don't know what to do. Your shadow work identifies the areas in your life that you need to work for or work towards. So when you're doing real shadow work and you're uncovering specific things, now you go, okay, I'm going to take this. I'm going to work with this deity to work on. That's how you create ritual work. All right. Let me go through some of these comments. Let me come up here. Well, first, let me say this. I mean, I got more I want to talk about, but I'm kind of just flowing with it tonight. I don't have anything specifically planned, but let's see what kind of questions we got in here. That kind of. All right. So infernal blessings to everybody. If I didn't greet you specifically in the beginning, I see some people in here. Ultra Instinct, Lindsay Sanders. Oh, what's going on? Blade of Ash Stars, long time. Steve Nunez, what's going on? Church of Rick, when are you? Oh, I guess that was from earlier. We started. Grimlock 8. All right. Anyway, infernal blessings to all those. Let's. Yeah, I see this. This happens a lot. I see Goddess Isis. It's not just mine. I've said this before a bunch of times over the years. It's a YouTube thing. When you subscribe to anybody's channel, not just mine, I hear this a lot on my channel and other people's channels. And it even happens to me because I subscribe to certain channels on YouTube. And anytime if it's a channel that I really like, I hit I tap the bell, I hit the drop down, and I hit all notifications. I don't get them either. I don't know what the answer is. I think that's just YouTube fucks with the algorithms. I think part of that, I think with me is because I'm not really talking about mainstream content. I'm not a channel that has 500,000 viewers or 200,000 subscribers or whatever. Mine are actual views because, as I said before, a lot of those big platforms, they buy views. There's companies you can hire to jack your views up. There's this new thing. I told you guys you can go on TikTok and Google it, and the internet's called view rooms. You got companies in China that have like gang of phones on the wall, and they just watch your videos all day. You pay them, and you're basically buying views. So a lot of those views are not really genuine views. A lot of it's bullshit. I'm not talking about, there are some of it that's legit, but I don't buy views. My views are actually, my subscribers and my views, I don't fuck with none of it. It's whatever it is, because that's just the way I approach it. I'm not really interested in any of that shit. But I believe they control the algorithm when it comes to all that shit. Yeah, just that's one of the reasons why I said in the beginning of the video, I'm going to try now to start. It's just hard sometimes because sometimes it's a last minute thing. I'm going to try at least a day or so to put out a notification if I'm going to do a YouTube. So this way, that's why I say stay abreast of the the Instagram page, the Facebook page, and the TikTok, because I always post it. Anything that I announce, I post on there. So kind of that's the way to combat it. It's just, again, sometimes I may not have no intention of doing a live. Something opens up, and then I literally, like, if you see me come on, I made that decision like 15, 20 minutes before I decided to do it. This, I knew I had some time. So long story short, I'm just going to try to plan some of these lives to avoid that. Because yeah, I hear that all the time. So, yep. All right, what else we got? Haunted Lavender 222. Hey, Baniti, much love from Canada. Canada, right? Canada, CA? Oh, I guess Canada, not California. All right, appreciate you tuning in. Brother Jack, what's going on, bro? Yeah, reach out, man. See if we can link up. I know we tried a few weeks back. It didn't work. Rather outstanding. Salute to set 2. Got my black candles blazing for him. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing the So this year, our Patreon deity, as I told you guys, is Set. And we're finishing up our Black Flame meditation work for this month. We already got the February working that will come out in about a week. Just like last year, we worked with the Zili Dantor for the entire year. This year, we are working with Set because, as I explained, it is the year of the 9 mind. When you add 2025 up, it is the number 9. That is Set's number. Set's number is equivalent to the black flame of consciousness. We got something big planned for July. We also are opening up this month's first ritual for 2025 is a black mass centered around Set. So hopefully those on the Patreon, you're doing your work. You got your carnelian stones, you got your black candles, and you're going to work. Now, as I said before, the black flame meditation is just to get you acclimated with the Set energy. Okay. So why Set was chosen or revealed himself to be chosen for 2025? We need a force and an energy that's going to destroy the fucked up ways, weak ways about ourselves that are holding us back. So I only encourage you to engage in that work if you're ready and prepared, because month 1 was scratching the surface. It's gonna kick up a gear as we go through the months, because it's very critical. I can't stress enough that we need to destroy those weak ways about ourselves that's holding us back. If we don't, it's going to be our downfall. And some people are not working on their shortcomings. Some people are not working on their issues. They're denying it. They're playing holy art thou. They're doing this, that, and the third, and they're ignoring the real shit that needs to be worked on and addressed. You can't do that. That's not going to work no more. Okay? You have to master those things about yourself that's holding you back. Okay? And Set will do that for you. You can either do it willingly or unwillingly. All right. Yeah, Outlaw David. Yeah, I hear that one too when I was talking about that earlier. I'm a child of Osho. The Ifa people are the worst. I just got called for what it is. And I come from that background. I was initiated in that. That was one of my systems for several years where I was heavy into that. We still on this path work with the Orisha. We work with the Voodoo deities. We work with the Lord, but we don't work with him in all that traditional shit. I know the traditional, so you can't do that. Bullshit. You can do whatever you want. That's why I left all that traditional shit. It was just a system of servitude, and it was a money train. It was a gravy train. Every time you do so, you got to do this. Oh, you need to do this ritual. Oh, you need to do this initiate. Oh, you need to do this. Gravy train, gravy train, gravy train. And one thing, I always tell this story. It's funny, but it's true. I think what hit me and woke me up, I started to see the stupidity in it. And I started to see how some people in that are more religious than Christians. And I'll never forget, this was one of the defining moments that like woke me up to how stupid that shit was. We were at a tambor, and it was for Shango, and they had an altar set up for Shango. And you know, if you've been to these tambors and they play for the Orisha, they have a bunch of different offerings and fruit and stuff they put there. But one of Shango's fruits is there's the apples, and they give them bananas, and I guess they had the shrine set up for a couple of days. Now, I so bad wanted to say something, but it's like a heavy wave of common sense hit me in the moment. We all know if we leave bananas, apples, or fruit out on our countertop, at some point, very quickly, within a few days, they're going to start to get ripe. They're going to turn, and then they're going to start to turn brown. And it's just called the natural process of decaying. Okay? Well, I'm listening to a bunch of people standing in front of the altar. Oh, look, Shango's eating the apples. Look, they're all rotten and they're turning. No, Shango's not eating the apples. It's called nature and just time. And motherfuckers is turning bad because they've been out exposed for a few days. Right? It's just little shit like that made me go, yeah, it's time to go, man. This is just, them people can be more religious than spooked out Christians. Right? All right. So yeah, I hear that one all the time. Kashiki says, are there gates for the Goetian? Yes, for some of them there are, most definitely. Some of them work with pass keys and sigils, depending on some of the infernals that you work with. Now, understand the Goetians are more, when I do, for an example, let me give you an example. if anybody's ever done a telepathic demonic reading, I work with there's three different pantheons I work with when I do a telepathic demonic reading. I work with the 72 Goetias, I work with the 12 princes of hell and the archdemons. So to give you an understanding, the scheme of things where the Goetia are, right? They are connected to elementals and earth. There's an aspect of earth magic connected to them and nature, but they represent the lower realms or the lower aspects of your subconscious mind. They are a gateway in itself to what we call the archdemons. The archdemons, that's why they refer to as archdemons, archbishops, right? Archdeacons. They are the higher being because that represents your higher self. And like I tell people, they're not ruled by any astrologicals. There's numbers and stuff connected to them, which gets into a whole other story. And then the 12 princes of hell in that pantheon and system, they bridge the higher and the lower self. So you have to understand in itself, if technically you wanted to look at it, the Goetias are gatekeepers in themselves because you have to master your work with them until you can open up, quote unquote, the gates of hell or Hades, right? As they call it in the Greek, right? And you start to understand hell is not down there or up there. See, that's where it gets a little confusing. I keep trying to tell people get fucked up with that Baphomet stuff because they get spooked out with it. Yeah, the Baphomet, see, you say, as above, so below. But you missed the second part of that statement. As within, so without. What the Baphomet is trying to show you, and it's a symbol, and to those newcomers that may be watching this video, Baphomet is not an entity, a literal entity. I know some people teach that he is, or that it's just a he, and it's androgynous. It embodies the divine harmony of masculine and feminine energy, right? Because it has the goat face of a man, it has breasts of a female, right? That's their harmonization of masculine and feminine. It embodies all the four elements, the as above, so below. You guys know all the rest of the stuff, right? The Baphomet is an alchemical symbol of personal transformation. For those that teach and those that accept that it's some type of deity or entity, and there are people out there who promote it as such, that's not true. That's false. I don't teach it in that form. When you look at one of the most popular occult symbols of the Baphomet, the five-pointed star with the head of Baphomet imposed upon it, it's a symbol, probably one of the most popular known symbols. The problem with it, though, is if you look at how it's evolved in the history of it, it got a strong affiliation with the Church of Satan, right? It really made its way on the scene here big time in the West and here in America when Anton LaVey formed the Church of Satan in California on June 6, 1966, right? That's when you really started seeing the pentagram and Baphomet, right? But even if you read in the Satanic Bible, you can get confused because some people misinterpreted what he wrote in there. He was using it in the same form of fashion, right? As far as what it represents, it's an alchemical symbol. It's almost used like a sigil. And that's why it's used as a backdrop on a lot of people's altars, on a lot of people's work, or on top of their altars. Because in essence, what everybody is trying to become is like a Baphomet because of what Baphomet or Baphomet represents, right? Just doing the chant of Baphomet, vibrating the Baphomet in sound, tone, and frequency creates inner alchemical transformation. It's not Baphomet. I know people pronounce it. It's Baphomet, Baphomet, Baphomet. Sit at your altar with the sigil just in front of you. Gaze upon it, capture it in your mind's eye, close your eyes and vibrate that mantra. Watch where that will take you. Because what it's doing is it's speeding up your vibrational frequency, right? And this is what I was talking about earlier. If they slow down your vibrational frequency by connecting you to extreme low frequency and low vibrational energy, you become more dense. That's what alchemy was talking about when you're reading about the Philosopher's Stone, Hermetic alchemy. It was the Philosopher's Stone is you. That's the stone you're working on. I keep telling you guys that. That's you, right? So if they could slow down your spiritual, the more you become less dense. And I keep for years trying to show you, once that pineal, what we call the pineal, the brow chakra, the third eye, different terms, once that becomes calcified, it becomes obstructed or blocked. You can't receive those high light frequency vibrational energy, not artificial illuminating light. Real light is consciousness. The highways to those paths of consciousness are the neuromelanin that starts in the stem on your brain, and it works its way up the spinal cord to the brain stem, right, through the hippocampus area of the brain, the cerebellum. I keep trying to tell you, they were trying to show you this. I told you the movies they put out over the years, as we all know, they educate you, and it's for those that get it and those that don't. I keep trying to tell you, everybody knows those Matrix movies were trying to show you what I just described. Just by the characters and how it worked. I keep trying to tell you, Keanu Reeves' character was called Neo. That was short for the neocortex of your brain. And anytime Neo had an experience, what they do? They hook some gadget up to his brain, and he's there physically in body, but he's having his experience outside of person, place, and thing. He's vibrating beyond third dimension because this physical body is trapped within 3 dimensions. That's what the Matrix is trying to show you. If you think that this is it, you're stuck in 3 dimensions. And that's why they try to show you it's a thin veil, right? And once you penetrate the Matrix and you vibrate at a higher frequency, they kind of depict it like where you can just, it's like a wall of energy. It's like liquidy, right? You can just stick your finger through it as they try to show you. I keep trying to tell you guys, this is how they also confuse you with this heaven and hell concept shit, because you think the spiritual abodes are up there. You've been programmed to look up heaven and look down hell. The lower abodes are there, the higher abodes are there. That's not what the Baphomet is trying to tell you. Because I told you, as within, right? As within, so without. He's trying to tell you above and below is all the same thing, but it's within, right? The Bible led you to little keys. It said the kingdom of heaven resides within man. It would say, make statements also like God doesn't dwell in houses made by man's hands. Because that's a metaphorical term or esoterical term that limits the power of who and what God is, right? What it's trying to say is if men think they could create some building and contain the power of God in it, then they don't understand who and what God is, okay? But see, those are points that are not drawn upon on the Bible. That's the stuff Christian preachers don't want to talk about. Yet they build these house of worships and they pass around a collection basket, and people just like zombies throwing money in there. And I always used to say, why does God need all this money? Does God really need this fancy building to be worshiped? Right? Does the pastor really need all that money to fly in private jets and drive in $100,000 cars and wear Rolexes and have wearing $1,000 custom suits? Come on, man. Let's just use common sense here. Okay? But when you go back to what I was talking about with the Baphomet, right? They make you think these abodes are above, below. First thing people look when they look at the spiritual planes, because they have created charts over the years, and they show them as spheres in layers. That's to confuse you. I keep trying to tell you that the spirit, what we're calling the spiritual realms, are interwoven around you. If you speed up your vibrational frequency, the veil is lifted. You're gonna find. Go back. It's just hard for me to explain some of this shit, because some of it you got to experience. Go back to the Hermetic principle where it says the doctrine, the principle of vibration. Nothing ever rests, right? It's always moving. Even when you think something is still, it is always moving. It's just when it slows down to such a low vibration, it creates the illusion it's solid and still, like when we see each other in human form, right? They know if you speed up, they got to do everything in their power to calcify your pineal gland so you can't receive these spiritual messages and communications. And what that does is that disconnects you, and you're trapped on the lower planes of person, place, or thing. And now these are your people that gravitate towards religion. These are your people that are in the world, and all they do is party, get drunk, get fucked up, and get high and smoke and get into mischief. They got addictions they can't overcome, whether it's sexual addictions, food addictions, drug addictions. These are your people that all they want to do is keep up with the Joneses and spend money, and all there are is into materialistic, they're low vibrational frequency beings. And I want to make this clear. I'm not saying live a good life. Look, I do go out, have fun, go to restaurants, eat, enjoy yourself. But I know how to do those things and be in the world, but not be controlled by it. Not that bullshit. Be in the world, but not of it. You are part of the world to some degree. I keep trying to tell you guys, you're living in a paradigm, two worlds that exist side by side with each other. You're going to find this out. You're literally jumping and shifting between two worlds, whether you're aware of it or not. Some of us have come to the reality of that, right? They want you stuck on this realm, this world, right? Because if you start coming to the reality that there are many subjective worlds out there, and you have the ability to go to any one of them at any time you want or feel, and you can just be a visitor here and keep jumping back and forth, they don't want you to know that. They want you to think this is it. They want you to think that this is the only planet that exists, that there's nothing really out. We all know that that's bullshit by now. I would hope most people do. But they want you stuck in their train of thought. They want you stuck and wrapped in their system. So if you think beyond that, their fear is you're going to wake up. Okay? Now, I'll get to that down there. Somebody had brought up Trump. I'll give you my thoughts on that when we get down there. But what else do we got here? So yes, to Kashigi's question, to finish that up, I know that went off to left field. Look at the Goetia in a sense. They are gatekeepers, right? They are gates, and they do represent, and obviously if you're familiar with working with the Goetia, I like to call them the Lords of Darkness, they all have different functions and purposes, right? And remember, they are commanded by some of the infernals, right? They are linked to some of the infernals. Like there is a hierarchy of how you rank some of these spirits and demons, right? The Goetia would be the starting point, right? You got to work your way past that on up to the archdemons, which is the higher self, right? That's also when you get into the clip path, right? That gets into something else, though. But yeah, the 22 tunnels are set. You mentioned in your next question; those are sub caverns of the clip path, right? So after you understand, and when people don't understand what the clip path and the tunnels, it's never ending. Okay. See, when we learn the clip path, that's the foundation of what they call the dark tree, right? Which is the antithesis to the Kabbalistic tree, the tree of life, right? The tree of life of living, really, you're living to get to the tree of death, because the whole science behind that is, think about this of your human existence, right? We think that this is living. It's not. It's dying. You were in your pure form or stage before you were birthed into this physical realm. So think about it. Even the ideology of that, they've got us twisted. We're confused. Because remember, at some point, if you look back, going back to what I'm talking about, vibrational frequency and how you manifest, at one point, you were an ether or an etheric or an energy being, right? Then you took, and that was in the form of a gas, right? Or an energy state, right? Then you went into a state of liquid, because as you slowed down in that vibrational frequency and made the conscious decision to come here, and you chose who you were going to come through to come here, that gets into a whole nother story. Then you lived in a sack of water for 9 months as a water being, right? That's your reptilian nature, right? And nobody wants to talk about this. We survived, all of us, before we were birthed physically into this realm. We swam in a sack of water for 9 months. There's a significance in that number 9 too. Okay, we all know there's a significance in that number 9. So you were in a sack of water for 9 months, and then you went from a state of a tadpole. If you look how the child or the human evolves in the womb of the woman, it looks like a tadpole, and as it grows and it starts to take shape, form, and as the body starts to develop and form, and then you're birthed into the universe. The water breaks, right? And you're birthed into the universe, and then they got to cut the etheric or the umbilical cord, okay? Now, I keep telling you guys this, and I know some of this stuff is going to sound crazy, but I got to tell you how it is. They know when you're birthed into the universe, there's something connected to every child that's born that connects them to the etheric realm or the ethereal realm, right? And it's called the placenta, okay? And I've always told people, if you've worked with me for years, and I did it with my children, always request the placenta of your baby and bury it yourself. They have to give it to you by law. Most people don't know that. They're going to look at you like they might look at you like you're crazy and ask, why do you want it? That's none of their fucking business, okay? Because that placenta is the very ethereal connection from where they came from and were birthed into this realm. And magicians and sorcerers who know how to fuck with that use that to gain power. And some of these doctors that are delivering these babies in these hospitals, I'm just going to keep it real with you, they're sorcerers. Some of them practice magic, and not always for the best intentions or purposes. And they use, I know this is going to sound crazy because you probably never heard this shit before. They use the placentas of small children in their rituals because it gives them power. It makes them stronger. Because in that placenta, there's pure, undiluted, when a child is in its most pure, innocent state, there's power and energy in that. And they use that. It's going to even sound even more fucked up. I know it's going to sound crazy. Some of them even eat it. Okay? I know you might say, Benita, you sound fucking bizarre. I don't really care at this point. Okay? So I would recommend moving forward, you take your child's placenta and they give it to you in this, like, it looks like a plastic tub. It's got a cover on it, and it usually has a handle. And you take that and bury it somewhere sacred. You bury it into the soil somewhere yourself. Do not let them keep the placenta of your children. They can cast spells, do magic, all types of shit on them. And you're going to find out that, you don't want to find that out the hard way is my point. I know, as bizarre as that seems, it's more critical even now. And my first was born in 92. And I even did a whole ritual in the delivery room while the child was being delivered. Certain things are said in the child's ear as they're first birthed into this world, because that's important too. It's important also what you're doing the 9 months. There is truth to the fact that the child can hear in the womb, in the belly of the mother. So what you're reading, what you're saying to that child, you can do a lot them 9 months leading up to the birth. Don't just let the child develop and you're not doing the necessary things you need to do to shape the mind of that child before it's even birthed into this physical world. And like I said, don't let them keep that placenta. Tell them you want the placenta of the child. Don't matter how crazy. They're going to look at you crazy. But yes, the 22 sets or 22 tunnels a set are sub-caverns of the clip hop. It's a continuation. Okay? Look at the tunnels and look at the clip hop. I always say to get a visual of how this works, because they're caverns, they're clips, right? It's like if you're in your bathroom and you have one of those medicine cabinets, and then you have a mirror and you open the cabinet. If you ever looked in a mirror, through a mirror, you see that reflection of you. It's just you continuously going back. There's no ending. That's kind of what that is. That's how that works. Because you got to understand, when you get into the void, the abyss, that's the deep recesses of your subconscious mind. There is no parameters there. There's no boundaries. There's no beginning. There's no end. See, it's hard for us to grasp that from a three-dimensional mindset, because in order for us to feel comfortable as human immortals, they have to give us a beginning and an end, because then we feel safe. Oh, that's the beginning and that's the end. And I keep saying that's why they had to do that in religion. In the beginning, how the Bible starts off, right? But anybody with intelligence say, well, hold on, right? Hold on. Pull it up right here. Look how they fuck with you here. What I just said is how the Bible starts out. And immediately it's enforcing that spell and illusion of time right out the gate. Right out the gate. If you go to Genesis chapter 1, it says the first 3 words, in the beginning. Now, you don't realize what that stamps on your subconscious mind. God made heaven and earth. The earth was invisible and unfinished, and darkness was over the deep. The Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the water. Then God said, let there be light. Okay. Now, they mistranslate this in the New King James. If you go to the original King James, I just want to show you something just to prove my point. It's good to have different translations of the Bible. This is the Orthodox Study Bible, which is the New James King Version. But watch this. The original 1611, watch the trick on words. And the reason why every X amount of years they come out with new translations, it's to cover up their mistakes. Because I always tell people, why do you keep coming out with new versions of the Bible? Is God's word not infallible? Why do men feel the need to correct the word of God if the word of God is not have any mistakes? So look at the slight difference here. And it says there in the first couple of verses, in the beginning, pay attention to the wording. In the beginning, God made heaven and earth. The earth was invisible and unfinished. It's not even in this translation. Watch. And darkness was over the deep. The Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the water. Listen to how different this is. And that's the newer version. This is the original 1611 King James Version. Okay. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, let there be light, right? Now, when you come up here, it says, where is it? And God said, let there be light, and there was light. But I want to back up, okay? The earth was without form and void. Here it says the earth was invisible and unfinished. Two totally different words. Form and void and darkness, and it says God's Spirit was upon the face of the deep. It's talking about without form, void, and the deep, and God's void and God's Spirit was roaming across these dark, murky spiritual waters. This is totally different here. Now, my question would be, now you can see if you go into the Blue Online Study Bible and you look at the Hebrew, why did they change those words? This is one of many. I could take you through a bunch. That's a totally different way of wording it, and it takes on a totally different meaning. Why my point I'm saying that is because this is confirmation when you read the original King James 16. I got about 8 different Bibles because I study them all, because you need to understand the translations of them because they all have their own agenda. It negates the fact in the newer translation that God existed in the void, the abyss, in the dark, murky, chaotic waters before there was light. So how could darkness be an evil thing? And if this is the beginning, this is the $1 million question, and spooky ass religious pastors will get really stupidly spooky on you. I would always ask, well, how did God get there? They say, well, you see, bro, we just, God is who he is. And, they just get all sentimental and just come at you with some fucking nonsense. Okay. So that statement alone in the beginning, and then you get into Revelations, talks about I'm the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. They enforce it in the beginning in the first book, and then they enforce it in the end book, the last one, the book of Revelations. And it's done intentionally. But yeah, the tunnels is that. Let's see what else we got here. Rather Outstanding said you have to go through Lilith to go into the tree of death. Yes, you have to go through the Sitra Achra. Lilith and the Amma guide you through the Sitra Achra into the void and the abyss. Once you have shown a proficiency, and I keep trying to tell people, Lilith, when we talk about lust in relationship to Lilith, a lot of people get confused. They always connect that with sexual energy, and they're incorrect. It's not just always sexual energy. Once Lilith sees the individual navigating through the cliff and they've obtained a certain level of knowledge, she reaches out to those who have that thirst for knowledge. That's how she truly connects with her children. I keep telling people that. Okay. So yes, she guides you through that 10th going into that 11th cliff. That's correct. All right. Ken says, what's up? What's up, Kenneth? Cookie says, you, Brother Panic, and Bobby Hammond and Gold. I appreciate that. What else we got? Yeah, now chaos, yes. I think that was in relation to what I was talking about earlier in creating rituals. Now, look, I just want to make this clear also. Everybody's got to find their own method. I'm not saying the method I use is going to work for everybody. I just don't plan my shit out like that no more. I stopped that a long time ago. It's real simple how I create rituals now. Is I clearly get a concept in my mind. I'm very clear on the intent and what the ritual is for, and then I just flow with it from there. That's it. Because sometimes you could overthink shit. Sometimes in being so perfect and careful, you can, as they say, the term block your blessings or your results, right? So I found out that I kind of was doing that to a degree. I was trying to be too meticulous. And sometimes when you look, I'm not saying if even if you're doing it like naturally freestyle, there's still got to be some level of organization there. You have to establish that based on how it manifests. So I'm not saying that discipline and organization is a bad thing. And I'm not saying, again, the methodology that I'm talking about is going to work for everybody. Maybe out the gate, you need to be a little bit more organized, write things down, plan it. So I just want to make that clear. So I'm not telling you that, hey, look, do it the way I'm telling you because it's going to work. It may not work for you. You might have to be the person who needs to be a little more organized, a little more structured. Because remember, there's not a right or a wrong way to do this. The only right way is the way that works for you. Let's just keep that in mind, right? That's the beauty of this path. There's not one particular way that is the official way. You have to do it like this. That's not how this works. Okay? So you've got to kind of find your niche, see what works for you. But putting in work and ritual work is the way how you're going to transform and change. This is how you're going to get results on your path, is by putting in the work. Again, you could sit around and read 1 million books for as long as you want. The books, it's great. You're going to retain a lot of knowledge. Oh, speaking of books, I forgot. I pulled that book out earlier. In relationship to the Anunnaki, I would recommend this book, and I got to remind to put it in the Necronomicon class because I forgot to grab it. So if some of you here who are on Patreon in the class, this is a book called Gods, Demons, and Symbols of Ancient Mesopotamia, an illustrated dictionary. It's by Jeremy Black and Anthony Green. You probably can't see it with the background. Maybe you can see it there. Okay, Jeremy Black and Anthony Green. Somebody can Google it now. I've had it since the 92. Somebody can check to see if it's available. This book here, and I recommend this, if you are going to work with Necronomicon, this would be a good complementary book to get yourself educated on the different gods and goddesses that you're working with in there. It literally, the illustrations in here, some are actual. I know it's hard to see with the banner. If I pull it back here, you can see. Some of it are actual pictures of the different carvings. Like this is in one of the temples of the Anunnakis. You'll see this is where I found first in my research. You'll see the 6-pointed star goes back. This is an ancient Babylonian temple here. And the 6-pointed star, when you study the origin of it, it really has nothing to do with Judaism. It shows this is how it got grafted into Judaism. Because remember, when you read the histories of the Jews or who they call themselves Jews, were in captivity in Babylon, when they came back into Jerusalem during the time of Ezra and rebuilt Solomon's temple, this is where you see what they call the 6-pointed star, Star of David, now pop up. A lot of what they're calling today Hebrew culture came from the ancient Sumerians because they were in captivity. And now remember, it wasn't the type of captivity people would think captivity and being bad, because in that Exodus, many stayed behind because they had good lives there. They didn't want to leave. They were treated great there. They had their own land. They had their own everything. So not all of them left, right? But this is why there's a connection with all that there. And then look, you see, you got here, it shows you Enkidu, Sargon, right? It actually has some of the ancient, it's the actual excavations. It goes also into the cuneiform language. You'll see also in here, and I'm going to read this because as I told you, you see that image right there, that's where the Pope and the Catholic Church gets their headdress from. And that's actually the deity that they worship, Dagon, right? And when you come in here, let me run through that real quick. It's an A to Z on all of the ancient Sumerian gods and goddesses, all the Anunnakis, right? And really, The Babylonian or the Canaanite god El was a Babylonian or Sumerian deity. That's who, whether they understand it or not, the Christians of the Bible are worshiping the god El, and they don't even know who the god El is, right? They think they do, but they have no idea. And this is what enforces this low vibrational frequency energy, because they're calling upon entities that are lower vibrational frequencies and they don't know it. And the more those religions grow, the more power they got or they contain over the planet. So let's look at here for an example. Dagon. Dagon, Hebrew Dagon, was a West Semitic corn god who came to be worshipped extensively throughout the Near East, including Mesopotamia. The original meaning of the name is unknown, but Dagon is a common word in Hebrew and Ugaritic for grain. And according to the one tradition, the god Dagon was the inventor of the plow. Dagon's cult is known at Mari from about 2500 BC, at Ebla about 2300 BC, and Ugarit over 1,000 years later. Sargon of Agadi and his grandson Naramam Suem attributed many of their conquests to the power of Dagon. At some point, pay attention to this, Dagon became the principal god of the Philistines. Now we're getting into the biblical god, right? Because we know who the Philistines were, who the Canaanites were, right? Watch this. At Ugarit on the Mediterranean coast, Dagon was regarded as the father god Baal. And Baal is clearly mentioned in the Bible, Baal Hadad. And second only in rank to the supreme god El, E-L, which is the definite article in Hebrew, right? The name they use for the source is El Elo, right? When you see that in the Hebrew, that's individualized. And then you have the Elohim, which is pluralization, right? Then it goes on to say, however, he is not an important figure in Ugaritic myths. His role as a vegetation god seems to have been largely usurped by Baal in about 1500 BC. At an early date, Dagon was assimilated into the Sumerian pantheon, but only as a minor deity attendant upon Enlil. And we know Enlil and Enki were the two warring brothers, which is the same story that you read in the Bible of Cain and Abel, which is the same story you read in ancient Egypt with Set and Osiris, and then Set and Heru. And then you also read it in the Bible too, after Cain and Abel, with Jacob and Esau. So that two warring brothers story was told multiple times throughout different periods of different cultures, but it was the same story. And then it's the Enki and Enlil, same thing. When you read the Sumerian text, they were at war with each other. They were always fighting at a disagreement, right? The goddess Salah became a spouse. In a different tradition, Dagon's wife was Ishara. It was said to be by the might of his creator, Dagon, the Hammurabi of Babylon, was able to conquer the city of Mari, while the contemporary Assyrian king, Samson-Adad I, worshiper of Dagon, built a temple to the god Turkwa, which he named Ikishka, the house of funerary offerings, in an Assyrian poem. Dagon sits along with Nergal and Masaru as judge of the dead when they reach the underworld. And there's a gate for this in the Necronomicon. Okay. In Babylon belief, Dagon kept with him in the underworld and in everlasting bondage the 7 children of the god Emsara. See the 7 gods, a tradition dating back at least to the 4th century AD of Dagon as a fish deity is erroneous, right? But if you look at how he looks, he has as I told you guys, when you see the cardinals and the bishops and the pope, they wear a hat called the mitre, M-I-T-I-R-E. And if you look at the mitre, it's the tail of a fish. It's the same headdress that their god El, that Babylonian god talked about here, aka Dagon, wore. So when you see them wearing that mitre on their head, they're telling you who their god is. I did a video on that a few months ago, just on that alone. Right? They worship Baal Hadad, El, Dagon. That's who their priesthood is, right? Structured after. And therefore they have this attire. If you pull up images of Dagon and then go look how the Pope is dressed and look at the staff that the Pope is carrying, right? Look, it's the catechist. All you got to do is look at it. If you see up close pictures, the catechist, the kundalini, it's the serpent. Look at it closely. These motherfuckers are telling you right in front of your face. They're not trying to hide it. Now, if you go to the beginning of anyway, this book this is the kind of stuff that's in this book. It's an A to Z, and there's great information in here. There's again, actual pictures of the actual relics in the temples. It's not just drawing illustrations, it's both. But if you're looking for a book to really understand the gods and the goddesses that are in the Necronomicon, get that book. Let me see something real quick. If it's on Amazon. I've never checked because I've had that book for so damn long. Let me see real quick. Just out of curiosity. I don't know if anybody looked it up. I didn't go down. Maybe somebody did. Let me see if it's in it. Just out of curiosity. Because sometimes these books go out of print. It's probably available. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. It is available. I see it. Kindle format came out, and then there's a paperback. So if you have Kindle, it's free on Kindle. If you have a Kindle subscription, you can read it for free. The paperback, which I don't know if it's this. Oh no, that's not available paperback. Hold on, I just hit it. Let me see. Yeah, it is. Whew, $40. Damn. It is available in paperback. You can check other platforms. I haven't checked if it's on the Scribd app, but there you see it's on Amazon right now for $40. I figured it was going to be one of those. I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't, but you guys can Google it. I can tell you this. If you're a little hesitant, it's worth the investment if you're looking for a really good book, because eventually it's probably going to be non-existent. And if they have it, $4.49 to ship it. So it's not, if you're a Prime member, you can't get it. It's no free ship. That's not bad. So basically $40. But I will tell you this, if you're looking for a good book, it's going to be one of them books you probably ain't going to get probably in the next few years. It's going to almost, the actual hard copy will probably be gone. If you don't want to spend that type of money, you got to, it's available on Kindle. You can read it free for Kindle. I think it's a few bucks to buy it, the digital version. But to me, that's a book you need to have hard copy. All right. All right. So yes, chaos magic. So again, to finish that question off, yes, chaos magic it's on the fly. It's just tapping in, and that's kind of how I do a lot of my rituals and work. Okay. So yeah, the thing I was saying to finish with that. So yes, the time is off. They have sped it up. And this is why, if you feel like more so than ever, and like last year flew by, literally, you know me, I love the holiday season. I felt like Christmas just ended, and it came right back again, full circle, the whole holiday season. They're speeding up time because they know they're running out of what they've created time to accomplish their agenda, because their fear is, what I tell you, hey, get your ass down. Get your ass down. Down. They know they have to speed up time, because when everybody was a couple of years ago, when everybody was reading about CERN and the hydrogen colliders, they were trying to open up a porthole to speed up time, because the plan that they've executed for complete rule and rule and domination of this planet is they know their time is running thin, so they're trying to speed it up. And one thing I'm going to tell you, that this is one thing you can't do. This is where the watchers come in now. Now, this is where they're going to kind of fail, because you got those watchers that part of their job is to make sure things stay on its natural course. Now, I've mentioned this before to you guys. It's going to sound a little weird and crazy, but those watchers that are responsible for making sure that this process sees its natural way and it keeps evolving how it's supposed to naturally in accordance with nature, they have the ability to step in and alter time if need be. And they only do it in severe situations. Because linear time is such an illusion, that might sound impossible to some, but because linear time is non-existent, it's very easy for them to stop and pause what those who call time and then adjust whatever needs to be adjusted and pick it up from that point without pretty much anybody even knowing it. And this is why people are getting effects of either time speeding up or other effects where things they're sensing things or feeling things and things are going on. That's usually a telltale sign that the watchers are at work in some shape, form, or fashion. I told you, sometimes they mess with us too. You'll hear like a ringing all of a sudden out of nowhere will happen in your ears. It'll just pick up in intensity. Sometimes it'll come quick. It's for a couple of seconds. It'll be a loud ringing or buzzing sound. Sometimes it can come in the form of severe headaches. Sometimes they're tuning you in. It's them letting you know that they're there. I always try to tell you, it's like the old radios we had back in the days, the old FM AM radios that we had the tune-in dial, right? We all know when we had to tune a radio station and we had to play with the tune-in dial, right? We had to get it just right so we can get a clear station. Well, they do that sometimes. That's their way of keeping you tuned in and aligned with the changes they're doing. And sometimes you go, where the fuck? All of a sudden, like it's happened to me. Like if something loud comes and goes, it pulls back. That buzzing will happen to me periodically. Sometimes it's a headache in a concentrated part of your head, right? It could be just in a specific area. Sometimes it's one side of the head. These are all telltale signs that activity is going on in and around you. Okay. And in addition to the other things I described that they're doing with the low vibrational frequency. So this is what I mean when I've said for years, there's an interplanetary warfare for control of your mind. That's what I meant when I said that, when I did that video a few years ago. Okay. And they're about to upstep it to the upteenth power this year. It's about to accelerate. Trust me when I tell you. All right. Anthony Jahir says, you ever just start randomly crying because you've tapped in and can feel the spirit? Oh, of course, especially ancestral spirits, right? Especially that'll happen a lot with not just a lot of the spirits on these pantheons, but when you're working necromancy, especially if you're connected to certain bloodline relatives like direct family, that'll happen a lot. And again, you become, and this is why I keep trying to tell people, protect your spiritual vibrational energy and frequency, because you become, the more you evolve and grow on this path, your vibrational frequency becomes sensitive. And this is why you'll start to find you just can't be around any type of people anymore. You start to change. You start to look at some people you used to like a lot. Now, all of a sudden, you don't really feel them no more. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at them differently. You feel a certain way and you don't understand it. You think there's something wrong with you. But shit, just 2 weeks ago, I know this person for 10 years. We were cool as fuck. I used to love Bob. Now, all of a sudden, I just don't feel them like that no more. And so I'm almost disgusted with them. There's nothing wrong with you, and there's not really nothing wrong with them. What's going on is you're changing. Your spiritual vibrational frequency is changing. It's evolving away from that individual that's carrying a different energy, right? Because you're tapping into something that is obsolete to what you are evolving into. So this is why you change the way you feel about things. Certain things you might used to love, you don't have a love for no more. You don't really care. Some things you might have thought that you didn't like or you had no love for, you didn't really care about, you look at it differently now. It's just maybe back at that point you wasn't ready to see it for what it was. This is that's that internal change that I'm talking about that starts to happen within an individual as they're growing on this path. And you're going to find out if you're growing on this path, your circle changes, especially with people. And this is the year I told you guys in the end of the year class, you've got to really look at your surroundings and really go to work on what it is in those surroundings you need to eliminate that's not productive for you. If you're keeping toxic people around you, you are going to become toxic yourself. Stop affiliating with these people that are destructive to your growth. most people that are really locked on this path, they have a small circle anyway. We don't like to be around large crowds anymore. I stopped it. Yeah, back in the day, I used to love going out, hanging out, going to basement parties, being around a lot of people. Now I have no desire for that shit. It's not just the fact that I'm getting older. I don't feel like you're very sensitive to everybody's energy. Like sometimes I could be at a restaurant, a bar, or a lounge, and like I go to a lot of hockey games, and we go to this place afterwards, and they're playing loud music and all that time. There's a full bar, the food is good and everything. But after being in there for X amount of time, I'm ready to go. Like you just feel all the energy in there, and it's draining because it's obsolete to what you are. It's like that you've evolved past it, and you sense that now it's draining and it's toxic. And sometimes look, I'm a people watcher. Like when I go to places, I watch and study people, and it's a gift and a curse. I could look at some people, I could see the pain, the suffering, the depression. I could tap into it. Sometimes you could tap into and feel their energy. Sometimes you can even feel some of these people are really severely ill and sick. And it's just when you start to tap into all that, it's very draining, and then you see sometimes you go to these places, people out there, they at the bar, they hanging out, they drinking, the music's playing, they trying to mask their insecurities, right? They're trying to escape from what they are. And the reality is when that alcohol wears off and that music stops and you go home, you got to get up in the morning and look at the real you in the mirror. Okay, so nothing really changed. All you did was put a Band-Aid on something that was broke. Once you take the Band-Aid off, so it's just a temporary fix. And you see this. It's very draining, I can tell you that. All right. Oh, Nikita Tillis. You haven't caught a live in a couple of years. Yeah, I recognize your name. Well, welcome back. I'm glad you caught one. Ruben C. Yeah, you're asking a controversial question, but I'm going to be honest. And Ruben's question is, what are your thoughts on Trump's presidency? All right. Well, I'm going to be brutally honest here. Okay. And before I say what I'm about to say, you guys have heard me talk about this before, but before I say what I'm about to say, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not a supporter of any political party. I'm a supporter in what's right for the country. Okay. First of all, none of these candidates are perfect. They all got issues, right? Let's just put that out there. But let's just look at the facts. Biden was a complete fucking moron. And anybody that can't see what took place the last 4 years is completely ignorant. Okay? Hold on. My TV, my son's TV. I want to make sure I see if he's sleeping. Hold on. All right, just took a peek and he's still up. If anybody can't see what took place the last 4 years, you really got issues. Okay. The reality is this actually decline goes back. You got to go back to the last Bush presidency, because I say that because of this, where things were headed. And here's the reality. And this is a hard pill for some people to swallow. What they did was the okie doke. Country was going in a direction where there was a lot of racial tensions. So they had to find a figurehead they could put in there to appease black folks. And unfortunately, that was Obama. They had to get an individual that was black, but didn't look too black, kind of looked mixed, was kind of black enough, but yet still appealed to white folks, AKA President Obama for 2 terms, right? They had to calm down the rising that was getting ready to start to prepare you for the okie doke. They kind of got thrown a curveball when Trump got in there. First of all, you got to understand Trump's first presidency, he didn't have the cabinet available at his disposal. He was totally unprepared, right? And then he obviously did some dumb shit. He did some good shit, but he did some dumb shit. It's a little different this time around, right? And I'll tell you why. Because now with his experience, and he had a wide range of cabinet, he actually had more than people he could pick from. I know there's controversy on some of the people he picked, but I'm not going to get into all that. But the whole point is this. Okay. The first time around when Biden won and there was the controversy, was the election rigged? And we saw a lot of the shit that transpired January 6th, right? I don't want to get into all that because that'll be a whole show by itself, right? I got my thoughts on that. I don't think it's fully what it was like they claimed. I do think there was a part of it was a setup and part of it was his ignorance as far as January 6th. But for sure, they were doing something with those votes in elections. Something was off. All right, he loses. Fast forward, what just happened, and the people that he enlisted, and some of them don't, Elon Musk and all these big wigs, they were doomed from the beginning. Biden and the giggler, as I like to call the other one. She's the giggler. She looks like the Joker. I call her the fucking giggler. Okay, they were doomed because when you look, when it was election night around 12:30, 1 o'clock, okay, when he got up to 238 electoral votes, and I think it's when he I don't know if it was Wisconsin or one of them states, election was over. And then about an hour after that, he came at, he didn't even need the rest because he was going to win it. But look at how many red states turned blue. Look how, look, I'm going to tell you why I'm saying this. Look where the women's vote went. Look where some of the Black and Latino vote went. The election speaks volumes of how many people are fed up. And the reality is this: the Democratic Party has never really done shit for minorities. I hate to use that term because we're not minorities, but for Blacks, Latinos, Asians, whoever they consider minorities, right? Well, let's just say Black people in this sense, because they're always trying to really harp on the Black vote. And they always pull the race card. All their focus on was MAGA and Trump and race, and they just kept using the race card. And he was just dancing around it. They doomed themselves from the beginning. She was more worried about entertaining you with Beyonce and Cardi B and Oprah and Megan Thee Stallion. See, that's the game they play on Black folks in America. They try to entertain you to sleep. And she never addressed any issues, okay? She pre-selected her questions for most of her open appearances and whatever you call that, debates or whatever, when she appeared and had these rallies. And it was clear. She came out when one of the ladies asked the question, "Oh, we're only taking pre-selected questions." What? Now, then they focus on shit when Trump made a statement about a specific section in Ohio of people that were eating cats. And they do this intentionally, and they're gonna start up in the race shit because that's their only thing now. They're gonna start to try to increase racial tensions and not focus on the issues. Here's the thing I found in talking to most people. Outside of their personal dislike and race issues when it comes to public Republicans and Democrats and Trump and Biden, most of them don't even know the issues. And I would ask them, well, what is it specifically about Kamala and Biden that you really like and stand for their policies? They could tell you everything they don't like about Trump, but when you ask them, and it just goes to show they're voting on basically on race issue, black and white, and personal like and dislike. I found not all of them. I'm not saying there's some that know the issues. I found the majority of them couldn't even tell you half of what Kamala and Biden stood for. But they complained about everything that Trump stood for. So here's the reality. Trump wins by a fucking landslide. I think he was the first to get that many states the major states that had most electoral votes. I don't think any president ever clean sweeped them. It's been a while since that happened. Well, anyway, basically after he annihilated her and embarrassed her, right? And she fucked up by not separating herself from Biden because they lied about his health, okay? I'm about to say something that might be real controversial. They lied about his health. They covered it up. Then they finally came out and said, yeah, his health is deteriorating. He's stepping down. She should have kind of indiscreetly separated herself from him, but she didn't. So that made her look like a liar, okay? And she tried to cover that up, and that shit didn't work. I'm telling you this because it came to me clear. Go look at when he was put in office and inaugurated Biden. Go look at some of the video clips of him in about the first 6 months to a year of his presidency, then go into year 2, middle on, and you tell me, was that the same man Biden was inaugurated when he first came into office in 20 going into 21? And you tell me that's the same guy we see standing in front of us now? You go look at it, you go figure it out, and you tell me. I'm telling you that's not the same guy. Literally. Okay. And I'm not going to get into the specific. You go look. Fast forward, assassination attempt on Trump. It's all done for a specific reason. Okay. Trump gets in office, and here's the reality of what's getting ready to happen, whether people like it or not. And I'm going to be honest, I agree with a lot of it. Okay. Trump's about to do some shit you ain't never seen before in your life. Okay. As far as his policies and his changes, he's not playing. He's taking this back to the original colonies of 1776. He's going back to good old American values. And there's an upside and there's a good side and a bad side to it. There's more good to bad to it. I'm just going to keep it real. Okay. You have to look at things through a clear lens. Don't get caught up in your personal likes and dislikes. I'm not saying everything that man does. He does do some dumb shit and say some dumb shit. But the reality is, one, they will try to kill him, trust me. So it's going to be challenging for him to get through the next 4 years because people are going to start to find out. You thought Trump is also part of pawn in this game, but you thought that he was aligned with those powers that be. He's not. Their worst nightmare, they would try, as you saw, while he was out of office, they were trying their damnedest to get this man locked up for January 6th. For some of the election fraud they were trying to frame him with. Remember, before the campaigning began, what was it, 2 states? Because of the criminal procedure that was going on, he wasn't allowed to get their electoral votes. So they were trying to eliminate the big states through that criminal manhunt, and it didn't work. And he still clean kicked their ass. So they couldn't run the dispute. Like, the vote wasn't even close. It wasn't even like nothing to dispute. But I'm telling you, he's part of the plan, and he don't even know it. But when I say he doesn't even know it, look what he did in the last 4 weeks. You saw Biden more in the last 4 weeks than you saw him in 4 years. Go look at all the pardons that man just did in the last month, 5-6 weeks. Killers, pedophiles. He just pardoned his whole family before Trump came in because he knew if he didn't, that shit was the end to him because everybody wants to sit here and talk about, yeah, Trump has done some fucking fucked up shit. No doubt. They all have. But everybody gives Biden a pass for the criminal activity in China. This video footage of his son on film snorting coke, mixing with hoes, carrying a loaded guns in the video. That's all cool. All these Democrats are okay with that. No crimes were committing there. Go do the research on the family. Everybody sits there and talks about racism. People forget when Biden was a senator. Go look at some of the reforms. He was one of the biggest racists at that time against black people. Go do your research, okay? Go do the research on the pedophile history in that man's family, including him, that has been covered up for years. But they're worried about Trump grabbing some woman's pussy. You think Trump is the only politician that ever did that? You don't think no Democratic ever did? I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm saying people are focused on a distraction and not looking at the overall picture. They all do that shit. Clinton ain't the only one getting head in the Oval Office or inside the White House or inside Capitol Hill. How many of them senators, congressmen, fucking with hoes on the regular? Call girls, prostitutes, doing drugs. They just ain't been caught. But these hypocrites want to turn around and they'll use that stuff to lynch you. And the very people that are doing the lynching are the same ones who are doing the same shit. It just ain't been caught. Matter of fact, I guarantee a lot of them will have some of Diddy's free calls. Some of these politicians, et cetera, et cetera. You get my point. So it's getting ready to happen now. Look at what he did. First, he said about a week and a half ago, if they don't get this ceasefire and release these hostages, all hell is going to break loose in the Middle East, if you saw the conference. And these dumbass, well, what do you mean when you say that? And he said, I really got to explain that. Lo and behold, fast forward less than a week later, ceasefire agreement, a couple of days before he comes in office, hostages get released. There's a difference of opinion. Did they negotiate too much? Yeah, they had to give up a lot of soldiers, Palestinian soldiers. They gave up a lot to get that. But he made it clear, get this fixed or I'm going to fix it myself. This is what you're dealing with. That gets fixed. Biden couldn't do shit in 2 years with that. Biden couldn't do nothing in 4 years with the Ukraine war. Watch what's going to get ready to happen next with that. Biden couldn't do nothing with Syria. It hands down had to be the worst administration in the history, pretty much in the history of modern era of our country. That's how bad both of them were. This giggling, I call her the giggler bitch, she was supposed to handle the border and national security. And if you paid attention in the one debate with Trump, she kept attacking him, and he said, well, tell us when was the one time or the last time you went down to the border? Do you know in her 4 years of presidency, she never ever went down to the border? And remember, that was what she was, one of her main things she was assigned to. But nobody says anything about how over these last 4 years, there was uncharted, unmarked flights of illegals flown in from all different countries, put on buses, and dropped off into different cities in the Northeast. Some of the senators caught it in their own states. And you saw that one senator, he sent them right back up to Biden's house, right? I forgot what city that was. I think it was somewhere in Texas. They were dropping them off in places like Dallas, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, DC. Just buses in the middle of the night. Nobody's talking about that. What about that retirement for veterans in Boston? You could Google this 2 years ago, where men that sacrificed their lives fighting in war, men that had medical disabilities, injured from war, veterans that were relying on medicine, living in a retirement home, they kicked them all out just so they can move some illegals in there that they were busting in here illegal. I don't even want to tell you what their plan is for all those illegals that they brought here. Military enrollment is down. So all those that think they came here for free, you didn't come here for free. You just haven't found out yet, right? And you're going to find out real soon. Real hard lesson, okay? They didn't do that shit out of the kindness of their heart. I'm trying to say, people have no idea to the extent of what's going on. All that was going on. I can tell you, my hometown in Queens, New York, you go to Jamaica Avenue right now, you think you're in Venezuela, in some third world country. They set up out there, if you've ever been to Venezuela, it looks like little Venezuela. Now you have an influx of gangs and terrorists that found ways. We thought we had terrorist cells here before. There's terrorist cells sitting here and waiting right now as we speak. And nobody's talking about the lack of national security in securing our border by letting, and it's not just about Mexicans and Latinos. Arab terrorists have found that channel and that route to come in. And from Russian terrorists. This is all documented, sitting, laying in wait, because the last 4 years we got super sloppy with managing that border. Look, this is my stance on it. If you come here, you do shit legitimately, welcome. If you don't want to do shit legitimately, I'm sorry, get the fuck out, okay? Because we got enough of problems. Okay, look at that one illegal that was here recently that just raped and murdered that little girl in New York. To find out he's been here illegally, he was in one of those border crossings, one of those bus droppings where Biden dropped off all those migrants in them shelters in New York. Now, my point with that saying is, look, crime is going to happen. I get it. It happened long before this, but you don't add to the problem when you know you already got the problem, because that's something that could have been prevented, and it wasn't. Okay, because now we don't know who the fuck is here anymore. And we didn't to an extent before, but they were all up in arms when he was in his first term and he was trying to build a wall. Oh, he's prejudiced. Oh, he hates people. No. Enough is enough. At some point, you can't police the whole world, people. Okay? Because the problem is we tried to assist everybody. Everybody hates us. If something goes down here, who's going to come to our aid? Who's going to give us billions of dollars of aid? Soon as something goes down, everybody turns to us and we're responsible. We got to fix everybody's goddamn problems. Oh, the United States needs to step in. What's going on? I mean, it's ridiculous to see when this whole Palestinian Israeli thing with that, Palestinians are rioting or protesting in New York, like the United States government needs to step in and fix this. Why? Why? Because we know the game. If something pops off in the Middle East and you don't think Trump knows this, automatically somebody attacks Israel. Great Britain, United States, and most of the NATO countries are siding with Israel. Why do you think Putin, Russia, tried to make this alignment with a lot of the Arab countries like Syria, Korea, and China? So something pops off, there's your world war. You see who's going to be going at who. And why do you think Putin's been threatening it the last couple months? He knows this. He's not stupid. Okay? Now, mind you, this is the same man before he went out of office. Just a couple of months ago, he approved for the Ukraine, to use missiles on Russian soil directly. Do you know how dangerous that is? And really starting a World War III? And he didn't do shit about the Ukraine war since it started from day one. That was a direct jab at Trump. Clear as day. Okay? Then he was selling all that material, and you could Google this, all that material that was stored that Trump was using for the wall that was just neutralized. He was selling it for as little as $5. He was trying to get rid of it all before Trump came back in office because he knew it would cost twice as much expensive to build a wall. Okay. Now, your thoughts on the wall, that's your opinion, right? I don't look, it just depends on how you look at it. Because how we're doing it now, it's not working. Okay. It's not working. So there's more I can say on this, but my whole point is this. What you're getting ready to see in the next 4 years is something you ain't never seen before. Okay. You talk about Constitution, and people, the only thing they're going to try to do, and it's the only thing they got left, is the race card. They're going to play the race game. They're going to try to increase racial tensions. The only way they can really tack this dude is play the race card. But look what he did right when he came into office. First executive order. Now, they shot the one down today about the citizenship, and I knew that was going to get shot down. First thing he came in, he wasn't even in the office for 2 hours. Executive order. You're either a man or a woman. Fuck all this pronoun shit. Okay? Look, whatever your sexual preference is, that's your business. But the reality is that shit got out of control. Okay. And then now I'm seeing all these clips of LGBT people fearing for their lives. Stop. Nobody's stopping you. You can still do whatever you want to do. Nobody's going to prevent you from doing whatever it is you want to do with your body. That's your constitutional right. But it's also the constitutional right. It's clear as day. The executive order is just simply you're either a man, you're male or female. That was the first thing he did. Second thing he did was the citizenship. He was, and I knew that was going to fail because that went to the Supreme Court. They shot it down today, the judge. He was trying to impose, and it was his way of showing how serious he is with protecting national security. I even think he did it. He knew it was going to get shut down. Where he was saying, if you were born in this country, but your parents weren't here legally, that you didn't count as a naturalized citizen. I knew that wasn't going to work because that was going to violate the Constitution. Anyway, that gets shot down. Okay. Those were the first two things he signed. And then the third thing he did right out the gate, which and those people should have saw it coming. Everybody that was been waiting at the border, some of them for months, that had appointments upcoming, he canceled them all right at the gate. And everybody's getting all up in their feelings, boo-hooing, this and that. Before you react, what you got to think of, what if the shoe was on the other foot? Okay? Here's the reality. In this process, you're not going to be able to please everybody. You're not going to ever come up with a solution or a system where everybody is happy. At some point, you got to put your foot down. And the problem is, the reality is, everybody can't run here to fix their problems. Okay? And then the country is painted, like the government is painted, then it's always painted like, we're the bad guys. Oh my God, why didn't you let them in? Look, I get some of them people flee those countries they for their lives because it's so corrupt there. But the reality is at some point you can't take everybody. Why don't other countries step in and offer to take some of these people too? Some of these other NATO countries that are well equipped, right? And they don't hand me the bullshit. Oh, it's the land of opportunity. Well, that's not really the case all the time. Okay. And then when you get into the economy, look, you're going to see an improvement with the economy. You're also going to see what he's getting ready to attempt to do with the IRS. And hopefully that shit works, because if it does work, that's going to benefit all of us. Trust me when I tell you. And then I hear the screaming on, I don't even start. This could be a whole class in itself. Then there's the other people screaming that, oh, women are going to lose their, it's not the case. Okay. Study the issues, but in doing that, long story short, because I don't want to turn this into a political Trump class, but the whole point is, long story short, look at the issues. The reality is this. Not everybody's going to be happy and agree with everything. Just like any other administration, whether they're Republican or Democrat, got to have to take the shit with a grain of salt. What we need to all focus our energy on is getting this right for all of us, where we can all benefit and be a better nation as a whole. Because I'm going to tell you straight up, it's in bad shape. Okay. It's in bad shape. In these last 4 years, look at the economy, look at inflation, look at national security. It's scary. It's downright scary. It's falling apart, and he's on a mission, whether you like it or not. He's on a mission, and he made a statement today. I'm going to be working rapidly, was his term he used today, to get things changed. So strap on your seatbelt and get ready for the ride. There's going to be some good. There's going to be some bad. And that's how you got to take it, man. You can't look at it. If you think you're going to wake up tomorrow and the political system's going to be to your liking and everything's peachy keen, you're fooling yourself. Okay. Me, my personal stance, again, I'm for this country. I'm for all Americans. We need something better. Because some of us my age, some of you younger millennials, you may not understand it fully because you only seen what you've seen in the last 10 to 20 years, maybe. When you got people our age and older, and we've seen 5, 6 different administrations, it's different. We're seeing it through a different lens. So I'm just in the mindset it needs to be better for everybody. And sometimes in doing that, you got to just put your foot down, and you got to do things that, again, it's just like life in general. Not everybody's going to like what you do, right? And that's just the way it is. But that's my thoughts on that. Anyway, let's keep it moving. What else we got? Let's see, questions. What time we got? Yeah, I'll just finish the chat here. Yeah, that was when we were talking about the rappers earlier. Yeah, I mean, it's sad. I mean, it's hippity-dippity-doo, bippity-boopity-ba. Mary had a little lamb. It's these nursery, like, retard rhymes. Like, what is that shit? And it's killing their mentality and their intellect. And it's sad. What's that one? Oh, what's that chick? What's the one that danced? She was pregnant. The Sexy Red chick. Look, again, I'm not hating. Make your money. Do your thing, because you're a flash in the pan. Yeah, I mean, that's not going to last forever. So, hey, make your money. But really? We got our women now with their bellies out, pregnant, twerking, wearing hoe clothes, and nobody sees anything wrong with that. And this is the role model these younger girls have to look up to now. This is what they see. Come on, man. If nobody doesn't see anything wrong with that, I don't know what to say. Then hey, it is what it is. What else we got? Yeah, they are trying to keep down the black, especially the black woman, right? More so than anything, because that's the pillar of the black community, right? And if they destroy the black woman, the rest of the community goes. They know that. And that's why from jump, they promote single parent households. Their goal is to get most black women single, taking care of their own children, and relying on government assistance, welfare, WIC, and all forms of government assistance. And that's their goal, to get a black woman to go down to a government office and say, my man left me, I have no man, I need you to give me some free shit. And some of them have to do it because they had no choice. But it goes even deeper than that, because when you look at that whole structure, right, there's always the attack on the woman first. Then you go to the flip side where and she's controversial, but I agree with a lot of shit she says, but then they pull the race card on her. Now, you can love, like, or hate her. I like Candace Owens, because they always go, oh, she's married to a white man. She thinks she's white. I don't look at it like that, though. Because when she deals with black folks, and I've seen her do some interviews, and the way she addresses things, she's very articulate, intelligent. And somewhere along the line, it's been sold that if a black woman or a black man talks a certain way and they're intelligent, they're sellouts, or they're this or they're that. And that's not always the case. I don't buy that shit. So you got to talk ignorant like these mumble rappers, and then you're cool. You got to stay in the hood for the rest of your life, because if you leave the hood, you're a sellout. That is so stupid. So if people better themselves intellectually and financially, then they're sellouts. Do they do that to white folks? Do they really even do that to Latino folks? But why, when a black person educates themselves, moves out of the ghetto or the hood, gets a nice house, builds a business, or they're a sellout? Why? Because they didn't want to stay in the hood around drugs and prostitution and unsafe environments. They should be applauded for that shit. So I bring up Candace Owens because I would refer you guys to an interview she did recently with Nick Cannon, and made him look like the little punk bitch that he is. First of all, I can't stand the dude. right? One of the most ignorant dudes out there, little rich, spoiled kid that grew up rich, but thinks he's ghetto and hood and thug, and he's not. But he wants to play that shit with the saggy pants and the gold teeth. That's not you, dude. Everybody knows you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, they were having a conversation about sex, gender. It was controversial. And she had her stance, and he was attacking her, saying, and this is how she got his ass, cooked him. So you know how she stands with the whole LGBT and homosexuality. She has Christian values, and that's her right. She doesn't agree with it. She believes a man is a man, a woman is a woman, right? Doesn't change the fact you can get a sex change. Doesn't change the fact what you were born, this, that, and the third. Okay. His response to it is, well, that's not right. You're hating on, I'm not hating on. She's like, there's something. She says to him, do you believe that there's something as such as a subjective truth and an objective truth? He's like, yeah. She's like, well, I believe that there's an objective truth. And then this is how she cooks his ass. Well, he goes, well, you don't have the right to tell people if that's what they think they are in their mind, and that makes them feel good, and they think that they're right. They have that right to think and feel like that. She said, really? She brought up, and I forgot the term for it. There's a term. There's this new movement in this country that some of you may or may not be aware of. It's older folks who think it's okay to lust after and have sex with small children. There's a term for it. I can't think of the term. Maybe one of you guys can remember it. It's a movement. They've declassified it. They gave it a title. Again, let me repeat what I just said if you missed what I just said. It's mature adults, grown-ass folks, 30s, 40s, 50s, and above, who are now justifying, and they're trying to make, and I'm talking about the government was trying to make it, they gave it they always create a terminology for something. They gave it this term. It's older people who lust and look at small kids and children and want to have sex with them, and they're justifying that that's okay. So she mentions it to Nick, and he goes, oh, don't go there. Like tries to like laugh and giggle it off because she knows where she's going with it. She goes, well, they in their mind think that they're right, and that's okay. She goes, is that right, Nick? So because they think in their mind that that's right, are we not to look at them as pedophiles? Or is that okay? Should we just accept that? And she reminded him of the movement and how they're trying to make this legal. That's what I'm trying to say where we're at with this shit. So my thing is, when you look at somebody like Candace Owens, I don't agree with everything she says because she can be an extreme with that Christian stuff. But what I'm trying to get you guys to see, don't get caught up in the hype. Look at it for what it is. And when you really look at Candace Owens, first of all, I respect her. I think she's a beautiful, intelligent woman. She's smart, and she scares the shit out of people because no matter what you come at her with, she's going to deal with your ass right there on the spot. And they don't like that shit. Look at it for what it is. Don't get blinded by certain things you don't like and dislike. Because if you looked at it from a clear frame of mind, you're going to see a lot of things that she's saying is legit. And you're not getting caught up in your personal emotions about the shit. You can say that about a lot of people. But if you ever get a chance, pull that interview up. Watch how she cooked his ass, and he had nothing to say. Okay? So ask yourself, if it's okay, whatever anybody thinks in their mind, it's their right, and they have a right to be like that and feel like that and do what they want. So are those pedophiles? Is that justifying them lusting after children, wanting to have sex with children? What if that was your child they was lusting after with? You okay with that? I'm not. I'm fucking somebody up. Anybody ever looked at my younger son like that? They wouldn't be, you ain't want to know. Let me not even go there. But anyway. So yes, it's destroying the black woman is at worse odds than any other species on the planet because she's in a situation, she's damned if she do, she's damned if she don't. If she goes with a white man, she's condemned for, so she's a sellout, white dudes. So they want the black woman to stay in a single parent household or have 5 baby daddies, relying, and then that's the other thing, she's programmed where some of these black women, they don't, and shit, it's Latino women, it's even white trailer trash. These women are getting 4 or 5 baby daddies. At what point does that madness stop? At what point do you close your leg? But that's their goal. Okay? So anyway, I want to turn this into that, but you get my point. What else we got? Yeah, they do it with Latino women too. And that's a whole, shit. Now, there's different. You talk about Puerto Rican women or Dominican women, Cuban women. There's levels to that shit. And I mean, there's similarities, but there's levels to that shit. I mean, there's racism amongst Latinos. I mean, you got Cubans, Dominicans, and Puerto Ricans that could look dark, and if you didn't ask them, you would think they were black. And then you have Cubans, Puerto Ricans, and Dominicans that are so fair-skinned and light-skinned, they could pass for European or white. There's race that they deal with a self-hate problem amongst themselves. I see it, like I told you, coming down, like the Cubans I grew up with in New York, it's not the same shit down here in Florida, in Miami, and Fort Lauderdale. There's some racist-ass Cubans down here, okay? The worst Cubans are the ones that think they're white. And I tell them, I don't care how white you look, if I shake that tree, a black person's gonna fall out of that tree, okay? And it's crazy when you see the self-hate. And I see it too here with the Black Americans and the Haitians. The way the Black Americans treat the Haitians is sometimes it's crazy. But what that is that's past life slavery regression. That's what that shit is. So they pick it out on somebody else. Reality is this, and I used to say this years ago. If you got a Haitian, a Jamaican, an African American in a car, the cop's not going to pull the car over and say, "Hey, Haitian guy, get out the car. Hey, Jamaican." You all black to that cop at that moment. He don't give a fuck if you're Haitian, Dominican, Jamaican, this, that, or the third. All he knows is you black. And if he's a racist cop, he's looking at you all the same way. So why don't we quit the bullshit and stop separating on this stupidity shit that everybody's separated and divided on? Okay? And we're upholding nationalities that were given to you by slaves. Puerto Rican is not a nationality. It means rich port. The slave master gave it that name. He put some of the slaves there and he called it Puerto Rico, the rich port. You're not Dominican. You're not Jamaican. You're not Cuban. Those are slave master titles. Here's the reality when it comes to race. There's only 3 races on the planet, and everybody falls under one of those categories. You're either a Mongoloid, a Negroid, or a Caucasoid. That's it. Don't confuse nationality for race. Nationality is not your race, okay? See, people are spending their life claiming nationality. So if you're Latino, wake up call, you're not Mongoloid and you're not fully Caucasoid. So where does that place you? Okay. If you're Asian, you're not really, you might have some Caucasian in the blood. You might have some Negroid in the blood, but you're most likely going to fall under the Mongoloid category. If you have blonde hair and blue eyes, you're not going to be Mongoloid. You're definitely not going to be Negroid. Or if you have that bloodline, you're Caucasoid. Okay, that's the reason. See, they don't want you to look at it like that, because if they tell you there's only 3 races on the entire planet and subspecies of those races, then you would look at things in a different. Now, when you look at it from that regards, ask yourself, who's really the minority? Look at it from that perspective. Ask yourself, who is the minority now? So see how they switch the game on you, get you confused? And this is not, look, we're not talking, it's, you know me, everybody, I'm open to everybody. It's not racism, it's facts. Okay? It's not promoting self-hate. Some people don't want to deal with the cold, hard facts. That's why I won't do classes. It's amazing how you go on these platforms, people still talking about Africa being the foundation of civilization in Egypt. Aren't we past that by now? If anybody doesn't know that and accept that by this point, don't deal with them. So you must be rehashing this all the time. We're supposed to be past that by now. That's like kindergarten knowledge. That shit ain't going to help us in 2025. That living on that back in the day movement, back in the day, we were kings and queens. Okay, what about 2025? How the fuck we going to fix these problems that's going on right now? How is that putting money in my pocket? How is that going to make me live a better life? How is that going to help me build a better future for my family and my community? If we're not putting any of it into action. See, the talking shit is over. I keep telling people that. I told you guys a couple of years ago, and this year, the day of the conscious pimp is over. All these people on these conscious platforms, all they do is talk. Talk. They ain't putting in no work. They ain't doing anything. They ain't doing anything about any change. Me sit and listen to a 6-hour history on Black culture, how's that going to fix my problems? I don't need that no more with the internet. That might have been productive 20, 25 years ago, but now we have information, access to it at our fingertips. We got books galore. I want to know how, as a group, we can get out of economic depression and suffering. I want to know how can we improve the educational system, create better schools for our children, come up with better resources so they can become more productive people as they become adults. But nobody wants to talk about that shit. Everyone wants to talk about, well, back in ancient Africa, brother. See, what you got to understand, brother. I don't want to hear all that. Brother, sister, Lafia, Grand Rising. First of all, you motherfuckers don't even know what you're saying when you're saying Grand Rising. I don't know how that got instituted in the conscious community, but it's hilarious. That's a Masonic term. I keep telling you people that. Where'd you get that from? Grand Rising family. I told you it comes from the Masonic Lodge. If you're a Mason, you know, I know. Okay? And it goes back to the lodges in ancient Egypt. The guardians that stood at the entrance of the temples. You could pull this up, pull the pictures up. They stand there with a staff. They have the namuz on, and the apron is elevated. And there's a saying in the Masonic Lodge amongst the men, a real man can raise the apron. Erection. It goes back to the priesthood of men. If you Google men, you'll see him depicted as a deity with the phallus erected. The true man can raise the apron. It was talking about his virility, his sexual energy, and his intellectual energy. So the guardians stand at the door guarding the entrance into the sacred temple. But they have to be men who know how to raise the apron. And they used to greet each other at the door and say, Grand Rising. So why the fuck are you motherfuckers saying that? Grand Rising family, Hotep, Alafia, Ashe. Do you know any other words in Yoruba but Ashe and Alafia? More than likely not. Okay. Do you know where Grand Rising came from? More than likely not. Don't just be saying shit and you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Stop. I want to vomit when I hear people say that stuff because it's so artificial and fucking fake. Okay. That's why I say the day of the conscious pimp is over. All the conscious internet pimps, it's over. And I told you this year, you're going to see, you don't even have to do anything. Just sit back. Through their ignorance, they will expose themselves. And Billy Carson was the first one. And this fool just got on that Black Magic channel with Brother Rich. What really happened was that I had a near death. Shut the fuck up. You're embarrassed because a white Christian made you look stupid. Take that L, dude. Keep it moving. Take that L, keep it moving. You didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. I could pull out the Book of Barnabas right here. See, look, see, the difference is I know my shit. Here. I could have referred you to this right here. This is one of the first copies of the Book of Barnabas that came out. It's written by Ahmed Yusuf, and get his Dead Sea Scroll book. See, all Billy Boy had to do when he said, the Book of Barnabas says that Jesus wasn't crucified. Now, you can get into the authenticity of the book, right? There's debate. It was written in the mid-centuries in Italian and Latin, and scholars don't accept it because of the inconsistencies. And one thing that Wes Huff used to prove it was the Jubilee is off. And if Billy knew anything about this book, all he had to say is the Gospel of Barnabas is going according to the Jubilee of the church, not the Hebrew Jubilee, which creates the illusion that it's off. But he didn't know that, so he didn't say that. He could have took him to the last 3 chapters where in chapters 220 to 222, why he referred to the Book of Barnabas and clearly defined the story of why it says Jesus wasn't crucified, how Judas was taken in place of Jesus when they seized Jesus in the garden. An incident took, this is what the Book of Barnabas is saying. I'm not saying I accept it all. I'm telling you, if you had to prove his point, I could have did it in 5 minutes. It would have took me 5 fucking minutes. But when you don't know what you're talking about, you shouldn't bring stuff up. You have no clue what you're talking about. In chapters 220 to 222, it describes the whole story. Because this whole debate comes up amongst the Muslims and the Christians, because in the 4th chapter of the Quran, and I can pull that out for you, because you know I got my shit right fuck here. This is where this whole debate comes from, okay? And if he came prepared, he could have easily explained this. If you go into the 4th chapter of the Quran, this is where it all comes from. The 157th verse, and here's what it says. Yeah, right here.
2. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. 3, 4. There we go.
It's Surah of the Woman, chapter 4. And if you have a Quran, you can look at this yourself. Verse 157. Give me a second as I get to it. All right, right here. And because of their saying, we slew the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, Allah's messenger. They slew him not, nor crucified, but it appeared so unto them. And lo, those who disagree concerning it are in doubt. Therefore, they have no knowledge, therefore, save pursuit of conjecture. They slew him not. For curtain. Verse 158. But Allah took him up unto himself. Allah is ever mighty wise. So the big debate where this comes in with Muslims and Christians and the whole gospel of Barnabas, most Muslims accept the gospel as Barnabas because that validates Surah chapter 4, verse 157. So the Muslims believe a crucifixion happened, but they don't believe it was Jesus. They go by the gospel of Barnabas. Now, let me show you why. And all he had to do was show Wes Huff this. Now, Wes Huff didn't have to agree with it, but at least it would have looked, he would have appeared to look like he knew what the fuck he was talking about. Don't hand me all that shit. I had pneumonia. I just came from the hospital. I was set up. No, you just didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. That's what it was. If you go into the Gospel of Barnabas, okay, it's chapter actually 216. I'm sorry. So here's what happens. They come, we all have read the story in the Bible. They come in, this is 2:15 of the Gospel of Barnabas. Then God, seeing the danger of his servant, commanded Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel, the ministers, to take Jesus out of the world. That's why the Muslims believe he was taken up and not crucified. The holy angels came and took Jesus out by the window that looketh towards the south. They bare him and placed him in the third heaven in the company of angels, blessing God forevermore. Judas entered impetuously before all into the chamber where Jesus had been taken up, and the disciples were sleeping, whereupon the wonderful God acted wonderfully, in so much that Judas was so changed in speech and in face to be like Jesus that we believed him to be Jesus. And he, having awakened us, was seeking where was the master. And you can read the rest of the story for the sake of time. And then Judas realizes what had happened. If you ever notice, even in all the Jesus movies, they make Judas and Jesus look very close, right? My point is this. You do the research, you take a stance on it. I'm just saying, I'm using the documentation that's there. If you're going to bring that up and have the discussion, it's very easy to show. It's not complicated, right? But if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, then don't bring up something you don't have no knowledge on, okay? Now, you could have brought that up in that debate, and Wes Huff didn't have to agree with it, but at least you would have shown the point that you were coming from, because his stance was, and I know this class is going all over the place, but this is just how it is sometimes. His stance was the authenticity of the Gospel of Barnabas, which he had some valid points. Some scholars don't accept it, but the same guy that wrote this book, I would have also presented his book on the Dead Sea Scrolls. M.A. Yusuf did a whole book on the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he's got some evidence to support that there's a connection there with the scrolls they found in the Qumran caves. So you could have brought that point up and took him to the, look, I used to do this shit back in the day. I won't fuck with it no more because it's pointless. It's too easy, number one. And two, we got bigger fish to fry in this day and time. But that's a very easy debate. And then to get on that dude's channel and talk about, oh, a debate like that, you need 4 to 5 months. I need 5 minutes to prepare for a debate like that. If you know, first of all, you can't make the claim you're the world's most outstanding scholar on ancient tablets, texts, and scriptures. And you didn't even know. First you said it was the Sinai Bible. Oh, no. It was the Gospel of Barnabas. And then you couldn't even take the person there to show where it says that. Okay? So anybody could have tore you up. And the problem is, you thought you was going to come in and talk all that alien shit, and you thought you were talking to an uneducated person. You ran into the wrong person at the wrong time. That's all that was. Take that L. And if you wasn't prepared and you say you got caught off guard, real simple. Dude offer a reset. He said, let's start from scratch. Let's just forget that one. Let's start from scratch. And you still haven't accepted it. So that shows as a man, you're a coward. 2, you're a fake and a fraud, and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's all that means. Because I would respect you more if you say, you know what, I was called, let's do a reset, let's do it again. He's not going to ever go, he's never going to have another discussion with that dude. Because he knows that dude knows what he's talking about. That dude pulled out papyri, how he replicated papyri. That dude speaks ancient languages, right? You're talking to somebody that's a linguist. You're not going to run that game on him. But I could have still had a dialogue with him, at least shown him another point of view. He didn't have to agree. It's not about, when you have a debate, sometimes it's not all about everybody has to agree. You've got to be able to see both points. And then those listening, you make the decision. That's how that works. But anyway, that's kid shit. I ain't got time for that shit. I used to do shit like that for fun back in the day. I don't waste my time with that shit no more. All right, what else we got? Ice Spice. I can't keep up with all these. Ice Spice, Red Spice, Juicy Red, Little Boo Boo, Little Baby, Little Gambino, Little Baba, Little Boo Boo. These names be fucking killing me, man. Yeah, I've heard the name before. I told you I don't stay up on any of that new shit. Oh, now you're talking about real MCs. MC Light, the real Roxanne, Latifah. I mean, they all were. Now look at what those female rappers were rapping about, and now look at every female rapper today is shaking their ass, wop, wet pussy, come get this ass, it's juicy, and you know I got the best pussy on the. Oh, stop. Some of you got some stinky ass pussy. It ain't the best pussy on the planet. Stop. But yeah, I can't keep up with it. It's crazy. Cookie says she talks about cock. She talks about caca and diapers. Yeah, I'm telling you, this shit is out of control. It's bizarre. That's some crazy shit. I heard her rap. I think I was flipping. It was a few months ago. I believe they had, not too long ago, they did the, I think it was the BET Awards or one of them. And it sounded like just some girl at a party, like on the middle of the dance floor, just blurting random shit out. I'm like, this is the shit. This is what the hype is about. It was horrible, man. She talks about caca and diapers. That's hilarious. Yo, Taj, you starting that Queens Bronx debate? Yeah, I know. You know, I just being born and raised, yeah, you know, I always got to fight for the Queens side, but it was the Bronx. I got to be honest. The movements kind of happened at the same time, kind of. That's always been our claim to fame. You know, when Shan came out, that was his big beef with KRS. You know, the bridge is over, and you know there was always that debate: was it Queens or was it the Bronx? Whatever. At this point, it is what it is. Ice Spice be on that scat freak shit. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck they on, but it's crazy. All right, what else we got? Well, yeah, Queensbridge for sure. And wow, this is a long name. En El Inferno con la Diabla. Rap is supposed to be poetry with the beat. Too many mouth. Yeah, well, like I said, you know, there's a difference between a rapper and an MC. They're not the same thing. Me and Taja talk about that on the Hip Hop and Culture all the time. And speaking of that, we got to get a date for that. Just reminded me I was supposed to do that like 3 days ago. See how real hip hop heads look at it? See, a rapper is just any motherfucker that picks up a microphone and thinks they are quote unquote a lyricist. An MC is a lyricist. They write rhymes, they write poetry, they tell stories, they're visionaries. And that's what MCs it's abbreviated for mic controller. An MC would be able to control the crowd and captivate the crowd, right? These so-called rappers today ain't real MCs. All they do is it's hype. It's just write a song and repeat the same thing every 5 seconds and you got a hit record. Back then, look, you went, like I said earlier, you went to a show back in the day. You went to see Dougie Fresh. He was called the greatest entertainer for a reason because he entertained your ass. He had a whole methodology to his show. You went and saw Public Enemy perform. You saw a political conscious show, from the stage set to the whole, how they did their set, their song selection. I mean, it was a show. You went and you saw Heavy D and the Boys or Big Daddy Kane. You were going to see some dancing. You were going to, that was their niche. That was their game. Every rapper had their own style, creativity. Every rapper had their own identity. And it showed and it reflected in the performance of their show, because back then there was still all the elements of DJing, B-boying, rapping, and MCing. It was all still intact. Now, I told you, like I said earlier, now every performance, just the one retard singing, and then the five, I call them the extras, they just walking around behind them, grabbing their nuts and pulling their pants down and doing the posing or making it rain. And it's like, look, not everybody's a gangster and a thug. Not everybody's pumping drugs like that. And not everybody got money like that. Let's stop. Some of that shit is rented. Some of that shit is fake. Some of that shit is just for the videos. Let's call it for what it is. I'm not talking about the real street dudes that came up and about that life, because those exist, obvious. But let's stop. Not everybody's pimping hoes and stop. Come on, man. Stop. What else we got? I've done that before for H4. Sure, look up rap with suspect lyrics and you'll be shocked. Oh yeah, I mean, you could go back to shit. I mean, if you look at hip hop and look at the dress, people keep forgetting look how the dress, just in the culture, evolved. There was some suspect. I mean, you go back to like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 and the Disco 3. Remember, it was kind of that bizarre George Funk Parliament, and some of them dudes was wearing makeup, and it's always been there, 100%. But now it's like nobody's hiding it. Now you got dudes wearing dresses and skirts and carrying purses and painting their fingernails. Like, they just outright in the open with it. All right, what else we got? Yeah, I remember the Travis Scott incident. Yeah, when people bum rush the yeah. Yeah, KRS One. Respect to KRS. Ultra Ninja said, went to a hip hop festival here in Arizona. Everybody was trying to be a Drake clone. It was hard. Yeah, everybody. Oh man. 2001, and Inferno kind of like the opposite. 2001, the club music, it was all about mindless grinding. Yeah, 2000 it shifted. Okay, it shifted. Taza says, remember, repetition in the music is a spell in itself. Today's music is low vibration on purpose. Yeah, because they know. I don't want to get into the 4-bar measure. They know. Facts. Let me see what other questions. I'm getting ready to wrap this up. I realize I always say I'm going to be an hour and a half. I'm going on 3 hours. I got shit to do. So down for a wrap, brother. Was this BK Tidalway was still with us down? Wish BK, yeah, because when you have real platforms like that and they go, yeah, the club scene ain't the same. Logan Scott says, I have a question in the Sanguinomicon. They speak about the inner dragon. Is it the demon in that system? They do work with the agathodaemon in that system, right? The inner dragon is part of that, what we call the personal daemon or the agathodaemon, 100%. And they have specific work in there in the Sanguinomicon for that, 100%. All right, what else we got? Yeah. Well, to your second part of your question, Logan, it is a perspective of that path, because when we say like you worded here, it also says that your dragon can't be spoken to because it's you. It would be like asking your eyes to observe themselves. Well, that's a perspective, because yes and no, because what that is, that's the real you, right? And the real you, yes, it's always a part of you. The personal daemon is always a part of you. It's not separated from you. But what it is when we refer to the higher self and the lower self, it's just talking about certain aspects of awareness or consciousness. Because the lower self is the more mundane you, right? That's attached to everything, in the world, where it cuts off your higher intellect. It's really what it's really doing is separating your levels of awareness or intellect. So yes, if from that perspective, it's correct. It's the you, and you can't really talk to yourself in that context because it's all you. But what it's doing is separating the level of intellect or awareness. And yes, each paths have their own kind of some grimoires and spiritual systems will have their own kind of approach to it, and that's okay. But in essence, yes, there is a similarity there, right? Billy Lucci says, "Hey, what's up, Panini?" Tio says, "Appreciate the wisdom." Have on see all this. Good. Damn, it's popped on, and all I see is poop scat lyrics. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Maniac, what's going on? What else we got? Do you think we should eliminate AI? All right, so I'm glad you bring this up. Chat G said, "I'm asking this because my belief is that they can revise the truth and take you away from your intuition and internal knowledge." Yes, and you are, because part of the thing you have to be careful. There's two things. Part of the thing you have to be careful with AI is, yes, it can take away your pure creativity. And part of the illusion it can create is you're not going to be able to tell at some point in the near future what's real and what's fake. Now, there's also this fear that AI is going to eliminate humans. That's not true. The reality is this: AI is going to eliminate humans who don't know how to operate AI. That's what you got to be careful of. So we all need to learn, including myself. I got to get on the ball on that. I'm not really good with the AI. So you're going to eliminate yourself. It's not that AI is going to eliminate humans. It's going to eliminate those humans that don't know how it works and how it operates. Understand that. That's important, because people like to run with the conspiracy. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying that we need to understand that. So we all need to learn it and understand it. But yes, you do make some key points in it. That can happen if you don't understand its functions. 100%. Wow. Yeah. So you didn't get a notification either. I told you. I addressed that earlier. I don't know. It happens. It's just like they. Kashiki says, "Are there gates we can open and invoke when working with the Goetia?" Yes, most definitely. It just depends on what Goetia and what you're doing in the working, what for specifically. There's Goetias and Princes of Hell that work in conjunction with opening up the gates of quote unquote hell. Gusion, for an example, would be one of those infernals. Marabas also comes to mind. So yes, there are some of those, what I like to refer, I want to be careful how I word this, destructive, devouring Goetias that work and feed off of destruction and chaos to open and clear paths. Those all are quote unquote gateway type of entities. So yes, you can create rituals for that, or you can work in conjunction with them in regards to specific things they're affiliated. So as you know, the Goetias, some, for an example, are affiliated with certain specific aspects. Some, like you have like Dicarabia, for an example. Dicarabia, just using attributes that he's connected with, plants, crystals, stones, and herbs. He reveals the mystery of magic to individuals working with the powers of crystals and stones. That's just one example. Some of those infernals are road clearing. Those would be your gateway ones that have those type of connections. So most definitely. Okay. All right. So this here, and this want to be clear how I answer this. Logan said, "I remember you stating it. I say it not just with vampirism in general. It is Egyptian vampiric path is highly mental. You said to try to describe something that isn't a person, place, or thing. How do you begin to understand concepts like that? Where do you begin? First thing to understand is you'll never get an answer to that from a three-dimensional perspective of person, place, or thing. So one, you're asking that question right now And we're both in this form of person, place, or thing. So it would be a waste of time to try to even explain that, because to get that understanding is to vibrate outside of person, place, or thing. So the answer to your question, where to begin, is doing rituals where you have out of body experience, astral travel. So to get a clearer understanding of that, you yourself, through your ritual work, must take yourself and vibrate, speed up your frequency through your ritual work outside of person, place, or thing, and then you'll have a clearer understanding of that. Because if I were to sit here and tell all of us, we would be here till we all physically die. Somebody name something right now, and you're going to go crazy trying to do it. I know people are going to think, oh, I got it. Try to describe something that doesn't fall under the category of person, place, or thing. No matter how bizarre you think it is, it's either going to be a thing, a person, or a place. So the question is, what is not a person, place, or thing? To understand that is through your ritual work, but not through your experiences here confined to three-dimensional existence. That's where you must begin. Creating ritual work to get that understanding. Okay? Yes, the 22 tunnels are set. Yes, they would be looked at as gates. The cliffs technically are gates because once you get through one cliff, it opens you to the entrance of another cliff. So in the sense of that concept, yes, they're both gates in essence, the cliff or the clip path and the tunnels. Because when you just look at the clipothic tree, right, there is always a specific deity or spirit or demon that guards the door to the gates of to the openings of the cliff. So in essence, yes, there's a strong connection to that there. All right. Would the 22 tunnels set be the gates tunnels? Oh, excuse me. Do you want to work with when working with Goetia magic? Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a difference there. So because it's connected with the Kabbalah and the clip hop. But understand that those are two different entities. So be careful. Though they're connected, they have separate functions. So I wouldn't really say, in essence, fully the Goetia or Goetia magic is connected strongly to the tunnels of Set or the clip hop. Now there's some connections there, but understand the functionality of it. Now, when you're working with, when you just look on the clip hop, Arab Arazak, you look at some of these entities, Gamliel, you're dealing with a whole nother level of spirits and demons. They're not the same in that sense, right? So you got to be careful how you connect that. There's a connection, but understand their functionalities. They're kind of different. Remember, you got to look at the Goetias of, I always try to look at, you connect these infernals to the lower self, higher self, and that middle path. The Goetia would be at the bottom. That's how you got to look at that. They would be your entrance, and when you're dealing with magic. Now, you got to look at the Goetias also go back to lesser magic, like the systems of the lesser keys of Solomon. So there's Christians, mystical Christians that work with the Goetia because of its connection with the keys of Solomon. Okay. I would look some books, like one good book is Corin Hargrove's book, Goetia and Demons. That's a good book to start. I mean, if you just Google offhand, I know I got a bunch here. I just offhand, it's getting late. My mind's getting mush. But there's books out there. If you send me an email, and then maybe I remember, I'll send you an email. All right, what else we got? All right, what else we got? Let's see. Scroll down, some questions. Yeah, well, ultra instinct, like I say, we all. I always tell people, I've said the same thing in the past. I wish I would have known something this years ago. I wouldn't have wasted time. But that I look at the bigger picture. Don't look at it like that, because what you went through, all of us, what we went through to get to where we're at now, that was necessary to happen to be part of the journey. So look back and reflect. Like, for an example, up until a very young teenager, 13. I grew up in a Catholic background. I grew up in the Catholic Church as a child, adolescent, a child, and a very young teenager until I left. Like freshman year in high school is when I started like changing. Like I didn't want nothing to do with religion. But I look at my Catholic upbringing, I go back and now I reflect back and I go back and restudy all that stuff. But I look at it through the lens and the eyes of an occultist, and there's some stuff there you see differently now. But you also see the bullshit. But I can go, but look, when I tell you literally, and some of you guys know this, I know that Bible from front to back. And I know the Quran from front to back because I was part of all that shit growing up. Because there was a period I was a devout Muslim for 4 or 5 years. I got into Islam hardcore for a few years, so I don't regret it. Yes, it'd be nice if you say that. Yeah, I wish I could have just saved some time, this, that, and the third. And I get that, but don't look at that because to really embrace your journey and move forward, look at that and embrace it. That it was necessary because you gained a certain level of experience. And from that experience, you're able now to move forward and look at things differently. So I always look at where I came from, what I've been through. I don't really regret any of it, right? Some of it at the time I did because, how certain things went down and you're bitter about certain things, this, that, and the third, but that shit is irrelevant. You needed to go through those experiences because it got you to where you are now. So don't ever look at it like it was a waste of time, whether you came up from a Christian background, a Muslim background, a Buddhist, a ATR religion. No, you had to go through that. That was part of your path and your journey, right? And embrace it because the reality is, if you really think about it, you can take this now and compare, and the difference is now somebody that maybe not have that experience, you might have the ability to talk to somebody that might be struggling coming through those similar experiences, but they're still in a spot that you've evolved past, but now you've got that knowledge and that experience where you can impart it upon them and possibly help them to see some clarity and make wiser decisions. So that's it. So embrace it is what I say. Logan Scott says, I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise and Scientologists eat the placenta of their kids. I wouldn't doubt it. All right, what else we got? Yes, some people do bury it under ancestral land so they never lose their family. Yeah, that's why I say bury it somewhere sacred to you. Exactly. Some people bury it on their own property if they own their own property, etc. Just have that control over it. Trust me, it's very important. Yeah, there are some doctors that I'm telling you, man, you don't know. People wearing cloaks at all different places, man. That's a good point. Hopeful Art mentions like when a child is born, they have such a thing as a doula. What about when dying? I mean, technically, like if you look at it, last rites in the Catholic Church, right? That's one of the last sacraments that's given in the Catholic Church, where the priest comes to the bed of the individuals getting ready to transition, and if they want to make one last confession, and then it's the anointing, holy orders of anointing of the sick and the dying, and then he does this ritual, anoints them with oil, prepares them for the transition. So in essence, if I use that as an example, yeah, that kind of would apply. And some cultures have that where they have it in their culture, their spiritual system, where an elder or a qualified, initiated priest, or if that's what you want to call it, such as, excuse me, like I just explained, I think it's a good thing that we all should have entering in this world, and which is and exiting in this realm. There should be some words of power and words of transition, I believe, and some type of that imparted on the individual, I believe. Okay. What else we got? What else we got? Well, all right. So here, how are you going to talk about positive self mastery if you can't even control your eating habits? Well, it's not just that. People have a lot of habits they struggle to control. Apotheosis is a process you're trying to achieve, right? Self mastery is a continuous process. So there's a lot of people on this path who have habits, addictions, or they struggle with issues. And that's part of shadow work and doing the work on this path to get those things corrected, right? So, and then obviously there's certain things in relationship to eating habits. Some people have genetic disorders, right? Some people could have thyroid conditions. Some people could have inherited certain traits genetically. So there's a whole process, and that's just one. I mean, if it's drugs or an addiction, and that's common, a lot of people have issues, addictions to drugs. A lot of people have addictions to recklessly spending money. That's all things that an individual's got to work on and improve to attain that level of self mastery, right? Because there's a mundane aspect of it, and then there's also a spiritual aspect of it. So the reality is, there's no one individual that can stand here today and not say they don't have some issues they got to work on. If you believe that, you're fooling your fucking self. Okay. Everybody got some shit that they're dealing with. And it's a process. There's periods where you master that, you resolve it, you move on, but there's always those challenges that you face that you have to deal with. So understand, self-mastery and apotheosis is a continual process. You don't just wake up one day and say, oh, if you had everything perfect and everything fixed, none of us would even be here. We wouldn't even be having these discussions. Nobody would have a care or a problem in the world. That's not reality. And anybody that promotes the path, the occult, the left-hand path, as some fairy tale magical poof fix all that, oh, this is what you should be. And if you're not in that parameter, you're not this. That's foolishness, right? That's why we're all here, because we're on this path, because what we are trying to do is obtain that self-mastery. It's just like Kepera, right? Kepera is something you are constantly obtaining. It's not something you just get, you label it and define. You have those moments continuously. And that awareness hits you when you get Kepera, if you understand really what Kepera is. It's almost like the same thing. Okay. So I don't understand. I don't. That doesn't make sense. From what perspective? I also see that same person, primordial womb, types in Citra Akra as the shadow realm. From what perspective are you getting that? Never heard of that before. So what system does that come from? Never heard of that. In relation to the clip hop, that doesn't make sense. Okay. All right. What else we got? Yeah, the book was Gods, Demons, and Symbols of Ancient Mesopotamia. And the authors were Jeremy Black and Anthony Green. And we did look it up on Amazon. It is available free if you're a Kindle. You can get it on free Kindle digital. The paperback was $40. All right. What else we got? Yeah, and that energy that I was talking about earlier, that's going to happen as you change and grow. Like your likes and dislikes. It's part of the process, and there's nothing you can do in the sense of, I don't want to say resisting it, because you got to go with what you're feeling, right? Especially in relationship to people, because the reality is, in regards to that, is just it changes. And anybody that's been on this path for a while, your circles change. I always look at it like it's run its course, right? And a new chapter and a new door opens. That's how you got to look at it. That's just the way it is. Also check, Angelo Rosini said Google. Yeah, You could look for a PDF of it. I haven't checked Scribd, and Scribd usually has a lot of things on there. If you have the Scribd app, I would check on there too. You might see a free copy of it on there. I'm going to check when I get off. I'm not going to post it. We see it. All right, what else we got? Oh, if you work in a if you work in a retail store, you're around people all the time. You got to remember, there's always an exchange of energy. Period. When we're just out and about, and that's one of the reasons why I was saying earlier, I don't like to be in crowded places for too long of a time, because then you start tapping into that energy. It's draining, right? And that's why it's important to do your own personal spiritual cleansings. You should do that. I try to do one at least one a week. Some people do it more, some people do it less. It's personal. You do it based on your needs, but you should create your own personal spiritual cleansing just to kind of alter that vibrational frequency. Because again, if you're in a place for a long period of time that's in opposition to your energy, you're going to feel it, right? And as you describe, if you're in that type of work where you're in a retail environment, or you're in the hospitality industry, you work in a restaurant, man, you're around energy between, not just between the people you work with, but when you're working in an environment where there's a constant influx of people all the time, then come on, man. Yeah, you should be doing, I mean, we even talk about in the Draconian Ritual book, even spiritual cleansing, like the chakra meditations or the Kundalini meditations. Those are great, like grounding and cleansing exercises. They're not really rituals, they're more so exercises. You should be doing regular practices like that, especially for people like you that are in that field where they're around people, packs of people all day. I'm fortunate I'm not in that situation where I'm in a small, very, very, very small, secluded environment, but it can be very draining. All right. Oh, I fucking hate Walmart. It's crazy. I went there today and I had to return something. Actually, I've been there 2 times in the last 3 days, and I haven't been there in, I mean, I have to really think back. I can't stand Walmart. It's like people get into Walmart and their brain goes to fucking mush. From outside in the parking lot to walking in the aisles. They're like zombies when they're in the store. They're leaving the cart in the middle of the aisle, just dumb shit. That's why I'm like, man, look, I'm an Amazon junkie. If I can get it on Amazon, I get everything on Amazon. Toothpaste, I mean, you name it. I get everything. I don't even want to bother with that nonsense of walking through the store if I don't have to. All right, what else we got? Furnace says, I'm a shift leader, trust I get tested. Oh, yeah. So you're in that field. That's, yeah. Darvish Castle says, Infernal Blessings. Vanity, a few weeks ago, I felt my ego was overpowered by other consciousness. It was very overwhelming. My inner thoughts spoke over my usual daily inner voice. Any thoughts on it? Well, I'll just say this briefly. I mean, that's something we would have to really discuss and probe more. Obviously, you had some type of experience, right? Obviously, what you refer to as your higher consciousness kicked in on some shape, form, or fashion, but you'd have to dig deeper on what may have led up to that, what you were doing prior to that, were you doing some ritual work, et cetera, et cetera. So there's different factors. That's kind of something to discuss in like a consultation or a private conversation. All right. Yeah, and that's a good Xander Promio. That's a good point. I'm the same way. If there's books, like for an example, this one, when you see it get into that range, that means the hard copies are getting very limited. Yes, there's different companies you can Google, all right, and you could see PDF, but like certain books, in my opinion, and this is one, certain books you need a hard copy of. And if it's a good book and it's worth spending a little extra money, I do it too. I agree with that. Just to snatch them up while you can, because once they're gone, you're right, they're gone. What else we got? Trying to go through this quick. I know I've been saying for the last 30 minutes, I was about to get off, but I definitely got to speed this up. So I'm just kind of looking for some questions or some funny comments, because I like the jokes. Yeah, the politics shit, all that shit was a game, man. All that, like I say, the giggler was more worried about entertaining black people to get the black vote. So she was more worried about Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion and Oprah Winfrey and what was the other one she had there? Beyonce, right? They wanted to entertain you to sleep and didn't want to address no issues. So she did herself in. Yeah, that's the other one, the Ross Albright part of the West. Yeah, look, man, you got to pay attention to this shit that goes on. Now, what else we got? Man, there's a lot of shit in here. Yeah, both parties have their faults, hands down. And they all have their agendas, and they all part, whether they know it or not, they're all pieces in the game, whether they know it or not. That's why I say Trump is too. It's no opposition. I mean, it's no different. Yeah, I remember when he said that. Biden said, "If you don't vote for me, listen, man, just hands down, had to be the worst president in the modern era, hands down, in our lifetime. Not prior when we weren't here. Am I going back to them? Hundreds of years ago, but hands down in the last 100 years has to be the worst president. Horrifying, and I don't even want to know what this country would look like if they got in for another 4 years. A loaf of bread would probably be $10 for a loaf of bread and $15 for a gallon of milk if they kept going at the rate they were going. It's just the country would have been destroyed. So like I said, you make a good point. It's not about the party political affiliation. They both there's shit there, but at this point, I don't want to say it's taking the lesser of the two. But it's about what's going to give us something better to work with for the best part. Nothing's going to get, like I said, nothing's perfect in a perfect world, but what's going to get things, better. Okay. Rude says Obama is rumored to be gay. I haven't heard that. Well, I have heard the rumor that they might be on the up and out. They're saying that there's possible rumor they're getting divorced and they weren't sitting together at the inauguration, or she didn't go or some shit. There's some rumors circulating with that. But anyway, who gives a fuck, right? Yeah, well, that's what Xander. That's what the Democrats they have notorious for that. They'll tell you everything around vote time, especially race related, and then don't do anything about it once they get in. Right? That's just like that's just like it was killing me when Biden and her won the first election. I mean, I didn't want to laugh, but it was funny when they showed the clip, all the black women crying because it's the first female black vice president. She don't even identify with being black, really. Okay? And it just kills me when people put them up on the pedestal. Look, they took two people and they fit the bill, and they did it for a reason. Well, how you gonna sit there and get all sentimental and emotional when she didn't really even or doesn't really fully identify herself with being that? So you see the game. All right, what else we got? All right, I'm skipping through this. All right. Yeah, with the IRS, he's calling it the External Revenue Service. So if you understand the history of the country, remember why they started that, right? First, it wasn't supposed to tax you on every dollar you made. And I think I was having this conversation with Raven a few days ago, and it was done to support one of the wars. I think it was World War I. But also, if you read what it was done for originally, it's only supposed to tax you on profit, not all income. So the reality is, if we all looked at what we bring in on a net, and then after you paid all your expenses, all your bills, whatever's left over is what they're supposed to tax you on. But this rule has gotten manipulated so many times over the years. And somebody needs to look at it, because the IRS, they're the biggest fucking gangsters on the planet. Okay? And that basically is, that's a government gang. That's what I'm gonna call it for what it is. Because there's a lot of people, and that's one of their biggest fears too. If he changes that, a lot of people have been living like fat cats off of that for a long time. A lot of prominent people. Okay. So that needs to be looked at. Oh yeah, the Billy. So you guys comment the Billy Carson shit is a joke. I mean, what dude goes to knocks on somebody's door and two in him? First of all, you were so sick, you had pneumonia, this and that. That's a bunch of bullshit. Okay, all that boohooing. And I told you, he was recently on Brother Rich's show on Black Magic, saying what really happened was he was in the hospital, had a near-death experience, and they almost took me. It was embarrassing. Dude, you're embarrassing yourself. Shut the fuck up. Stop talking about it. The more you talk about it and keep changing your story and your narrative, you're making yourself look stupid. Just either if you ain't gonna do a redo with the dude, then just stop bringing attention to it. Stop talking about it and move on. It's one of the two. Either you have a rematch with the dude and do it all over again and do it right, or you just stop talking about it. That's the way you handle that. But to get on every time you now popping up on the live, you change your story or what happened. Nobody believes you except for the cronies that still fucking find excuses for you. Come on, man. It's comical, man. Like I told you, that debate was like, it's a joke. And they say you need 4 to 6 months to prepare for that. I could do it in 5 minutes right now. I showed you. It's easy. It's easy for somebody that knows what they're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't bring up in a discussion something you don't know what you're talking about, because you just might be talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about. That's my point. And guess what? It's okay to say if you don't know. If you don't know, you just don't know. Right? How many times people say, hey, have you heard of this? If I never heard of it, I don't know. Did you ever read this book? No, I never read that book. What? There's nothing wrong in saying that, but to pretend and to moose and dance around it and change your story all the time or what happened, you look foolish, dude. Stop. Dude whooped that ass. He just got in that ass and you wasn't ready for it. That's it. Just take the L, move. Keep it moving. What else we got? Yeah, I'm done. Well, if you if you there was a show, I see Cookie say, yeah, well, she tunes in. Well, if you hadn't seen the video, pull it up. It wasn't too long. It was like a week or two ago. He had on there, it was they were all on there. It was him, Phil Valentine, it was I'm trying to think of all the dudes' name. I can't think of them all. It was Phil Valentine, him. I think it was Red Pill was on there. Dr. B. Cyrus, which that guy, the way he talks, that shit he annoys the shit out of me. And somebody else. It was like 5 or 6 of them. And you should have saw how they were all co-signing for him. It was a joke. Now the excuse is because he had a near-death experience and came back. He was a newborn. He didn't know no better. Are you fucking kidding me? And they co-signing on that shit? Yeah, go ahead, Billy. Take your time, brother. Take your time. Okay. Do you know how embarrassing that shit is? That's the bullshit now. That's the story now. First it was you were sick, you had pneumonia, you were set up, you walked into the debate, you didn't know. Now it's you had a near-death experience, and I can't. Like I say, the more he brings it up, the worse he makes himself look. There's only 2 ways to handle that, and 2 ways only. One, you either have a redo. The dude offered you a redo to forget that altogether and start from scratch. I think that's fair. And if you don't want to do that, which he's not going to do that because he's going to get embarrassed, then just stop talking about it. Move on. Because the more you bring it up, the more you make yourself look dumb. So now we're supposed to believe some beings came for you. You had a near-death experience, and then they told you, I'm just quoting what he said, and they told you it wasn't your time, and they put you back in your body, and you came back. Sound like somebody been watching some movies to me. That shit sounds like to me. And you wasn't fully strong, and yeah, all the reasons why. Stop, man. Oh no, I watched that video. You look normal. You just look like somebody that didn't know what the fuck they was talking about. That's all. All right, let's see if there's any other comments or questions. Yeah, all the good rappers are underground or not. I agree. Diego, there's not one author. Coming Forth by Day is the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's an ancient Egyptian text. There's not one specific author. It's an ancient it's a text that you can pull up that was found when Egypt was excavated. So it's not a specific author because it speaks about many different things in there. Right? These were things that many different pharaohs. Really, it's a book of magic and spells because when you read it, you'll see like when they found some of this stuff, and the pharaohs had some of this stuff in their possession. These were books of magic, Egyptian Heker, because when an individual reads it, you see in a lot of the writings there's blank spaces where names are inserted. That's the individual that's reading it or is carrying out the work in there. So it's not written by an author. There's been authors who have done various different translations of it from the hieroglyphics. So these were writings they found in the pyramids that were written by or recorded down by many different pharaohs and different dynasties and things of that nature. It's not wasn't written by a specific person though. Little Boo Boo. Yeah, I can't keep up. I can't keep up with all those rapper names. I just know they all got Lil in front of their name. Lil, not little, Lil, Lil, Lil Boo Boo, Lil Poo Poo, Little Bougie. I appreciate the donation, Joel. Man, there's a lot of shit here. I don't know if I get. Every time I think I'm at the end, it shoots down. Now, Gerald Massey, if you read Gerald Massey's work, William Cooper, I don't have too much of his stuff, but Gerald Massey, yes, I've mentioned his work over the years, and I would encourage people to look into some of his work. I can't remember. I think when I was doing something with Rudolf Steiner, I mentioned him. But Gerald Massey's work on Egypt, I got some of his books over the years. They're interesting reads. If you're looking to more historical data, writings, things of that nature, Gerald Massey is. I even in Set the Outsider, there's a whole excerpt of his work inside Set the Outsider. The Darkness of the Devil Within. It takes a whole working in there. There's a lot of reference sources that Don Webb and Judith Page used in that book that come from Gerald Massey's work. So I would recommend look into it. You're not going to resonate with everything. Technically, they wouldn't be classified at that time period as a cult, the left-hand path, but a cult left-hand path practitioners reference their work. So it's always a good look. I would definitely encourage people to look at it. Right? There's definitely, Gerald Massey more so. I'll be honest with you, as far as William Cooper, I don't have too much of his stuff. But definitely Gerald Massey, I would highly encourage people to look into his work. All right, I think we're at the end. All right, that's it, people. I tried to just take some of the questions. I way exceeded my time. All right. Just figure I'd come on here. It's been a while. I'll try to post in advance when I do come on to prevent what everybody is saying about not getting the notifications. Believe me, you're not the first to say that. All right, well, look, I appreciate everybody's support. I'll see those on the next Patreon class, which is Saturday. I'll see you guys and those who are on Patreon. We have a class this Saturday, which is Shadow Work Class 23. For Patreon members only on the Patreon page. That'll be Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to get in on the Patreon classes, they're private classes with the Patreon family, the Primordial Chaos Patreon family. Go to patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. And tier 3 is the tier you want to join. That's going to give you access to the 3 private classes I do there every month for Patreon members only. And it's going to give you access to everything in the archives, including the ritual work, going back 5 years. Ton of work in there. So I'd encourage you to check that out. Other than that, you guys, if you need to reach out to me for a reading or a consultation, shoot me an email at khnum19@gmail.com. All the information, how to book a reading, how to contact me, the link to the Patreon page, all of that is in the description box of all my YouTube videos. So if you forget, all that information is there. You can pull it up. All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll talk soon. Infernal blessings. We're out of here. You ready to go out?